Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming tonight. I think we have a very good program. Goodness knows we got a lot of candidates to get through. I'm Bobby Thomas. I'm the executive director of PABI, and we enjoy doing this every election cycle. So we look forward to a good evening here. At this time, I'd like to call upon our 2022 PABI chair, Ms. Betsy Pavlovich.
It is my pleasure to welcome all of you. I am Betsy Pavlovich, the 2022 PABI chair. First, I'd like to ask you to join us to rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag right here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Superintendent, Dennis Roussel, and Ms. Carlin, the principal, I have this virus. Ms. Carlin, the principal of Belle Chasse High School, for the use of the auditorium. Thank you for Chad Arborough and Arlene Dardar of Bayou Events. They are a PABI member, and they have helped for this production. And also, thanks again to you, the audience, for coming. We appreciate your attendance. We thank the candidates for not only attending tonight, but for offering yourself for public service. It's a very difficult task, and it takes a strong person to put yourself out there with that. Before we begin the forum tonight, I'd like to ask Ms. Kim Turlich-Vaughn, our favorite clerk of court, to say a few words about the election. Kim was elected the Plaquemines Parish clerk of court in 2015 and then ran unopposed for re-election in 2019. She and her staff have revolutionized that department and its services. And she personifies all of the best qualities of Plaquemines Parish. And we are so lucky to have her, your friend and mine, our clerk of court, Kim Vaughn.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to come before you tonight and just do a quick little review of some of the important information for the upcoming election. As you all know, as a result of reapportionment, you as a voter may be voting in a different precinct. I just wanted to come before you and say that I encourage every one of you, or all that you can, spread the word, to encourage early voting, which will enable you to vote in any one of our early voting sites, and you have 7 days to vote, opposed to that one day, election day, that you wake up and maybe you have an illness, or the weather's bad, or you have a death in the family. This gives you 7 days of an opportunity to get out and cast your vote, which is very important. Early voting is October 25th to November 1st. The hours are 8:30 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. Early voting locations: at my office, the Courthouse Annex Building, 301 Main Street, the Registrar of Voters Office in Port Sulphur, the Government Building in Port Sulphur, and the Percy Griffin Community Center, which is in Davant. Now, that one is only open on a Saturday, October 29th. And of course, the 7 days of early voting, Sunday is the only day that's excluded there. If you haven't registered to vote, you still have time. October 18th is the last date that you can enroll to or register to vote, online only. The in-person registration ended yesterday. I encourage you to download the Go Vote app, where you can view your polling location and your ballot ahead of time, and you actually can view your the constitutional amendments and read the constitutional amendments in their entirety if you would like to do that. And also, That helps the voters or the poll workers on election day for you to be ready and prepared, because you know it's one of our larger elections and it will be time consuming during election time, so it would help everyone if you go ahead and read those ahead of time and be prepared when you come. If you prefer not to download that Go Vote app, because you can download a Go Vote app and it will give you your ballot and everything you need on there. But if you prefer not to do that, because we know everyone's got phones full of apps, you can go to my website at clerk25th.com, and we have all of the up-to-date information on there. And that's clerk25th.com, as I said. Also, I just wanted to quickly do these. There's been a national concern of voting and the integrity of voting. I just want to remind everyone that in the state of Louisiana, we are ranked 7th in voter integrity in the state of Louisiana. And the measures that our Secretary of State, Kyle Auditorium, takes to keep Election Day voting safe is that all of the programming and the program testing is done only by certified staff of the Secretary of State's office. It's hand-delivered to the Secretary of State machine warehouses, all of those programmed machines. Our particular warehouse for Plaquemines Parish, we share a warehouse that's governed by the Secretary of State's office, the state of Louisiana, but it's in Marrero, so that's where our warehouse is located. The Secretary of State staff test and seal all of the equipment, and this process is open to the public. In fact, we have our next meeting. Our Parish Board of Election Supervisors met today and drew for the poll commissioners for Election Day voting, and our next meeting is going to be on November the 19th at my office, where we will seal and test the early voting machines. That is open to the public. If you ever had a concern about how we do that, please show up, view it, get yourself versed in what we do, so that way you'll understand the election process. The trained commissioners that we have at each polling location, they have been trained through my office, and they also will have pre-election training prior to the election. The Secretary of State's run a zero report on the equipment used to use the machine on election night. This equipment is air-gapped. It's not connected to the internet. That's a big concern of the people in the public with that, and that's not the case. It's air-gapped. At the conclusion of the election, results of each polling place are printed and they're posted for the public to view. A second copy of those result tapes are delivered to my office. The results are then transferred over a secure, private, monitored network to the Secretary of State's office. Those state-dedicated networks are only available at my office and the Registrar of Voters' office. The unofficial results that are posted to the Secretary of State's website is replicated to prevent manipulation of the original unofficial results. One thing that Louisiana takes pride in is that we do require our voters to show a photo ID. Now, granted, if you show up on Election Day and you forgot it at home, there is an actual identification affidavit that you can complete, and you'll need to know information pertinent to how you registered to vote, but we do require a photo ID for our voters to cast their votes. And then, of course, at the end of each election, an audit is performed. The number of signatures in each poll book, the poll book in which you sign when you register to vote, that poll book that's at each polling location is compared with the public and the protective counters that are on the machines. So that is all I had for you this evening. I just wanted to give you a quick update and just remind you, everything I spoke of and more is on the clerk25th.com website, and I can be reached. My numbers are on there, my cell phone. If you're out campaigning, please don't hesitate to give me a call. Thank you, and good luck to all the candidates tonight.
Thank you, Kim. Now I'd like to introduce Reed McClellan. He is a financial advisor at Edward Jones Investment. He was the 2012 PABI chairman, and is the perfect person to be the moderator of this evening's event. He has a wealth of knowledge of Plaquemines Parish, and I just can't tell you how intelligent he is and how well he knows all the different facets of Plaquemines Parish. And I think he is, as I said, the perfect person. Reed McClellan.
I didn't know I knew so much. So thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Betsy has served us well this year. Probably hard to believe you only have a few meetings left before we move forward. We have our incoming chairman, Mr. Michael Worry, that's also here. Mike, you wave your hand. Thank you. Thank you. So just a couple of notes about what's going on this evening. This is a debate for the future of our parish. These elected officials will have the power and control to direct funds, taxpayer dollars, and also to lead the parish into the future. So I really appreciate everybody that's here, everybody that's watching online or that will watch this video on YouTube after the fact. I hope that everyone here, and I'm sure that everyone that's here or watching is going to go vote. I hope you encourage your neighbors and friends to vote. That is the single greatest thing about being in a democracy, is our right to go out and choose the people that will lead us into the future. One of the first rules of tonight is if you have a cell phone, please put it on airplane mode or silent. So please go ahead and do that. We have 20 candidates for council, and we have our parish president candidates here. They have a limited amount of time to get their point across. So if a phone goes off or starts buzzing or ringing, it'll really be disruptive. So please make sure that you silent your phones. We have several questions for each candidate. They have 1 minute to respond. And a minute doesn't sound like a lot of time, but if you're prepared and you get your point across, it's actually more than enough time to say what you need to say. We do have a timekeeper, Shoni Thomas. Shoni, show them what you're going to do when it gets to the end. So nice little stop sign there. If you're in the middle of a thought or comment, obviously we'll let you finish that. But go ahead when you do see that and wrap up your answer to that question. We are starting with districts 1, 2, and 3. We're doing this just out of efficiency and try to get things done as quickly as possible. The next group will be districts 4 and 5. And then finally, we'll have districts 6 and 8 come up to the stage. And they'll be asked pretty much the same questions. So you're getting the first questions because you're a District 1 candidate. That's just numerically how we're doing this, obviously. And then within the responses, we'll try to rotate. But, we're starting off in alphabetical order. So without further ado, we will go ahead and begin tonight's debate. All right, so each of you will start with a 1-minute introduction. We mainly want to know who you are and why you are running for council. We will start with District 1, Mr. Tyrone Edwards. You have 1 minute.
Mic test. Good evening. I'm Reverend Tyrone Edwards from downtown Phoenix on the east bank of the river. I've been dealing with the Plaquemines Parish government for 42 years, consistently going to the meeting when there was 5 members, commission council to now. I think my 42 years of advocacy at the council make me qualified. I graduated from University of New Orleans as a paralegal, so I have like 20 years of practicing as a paralegal. I understand the legislative process. I've testified before Congress. I've testified for the state legislature in Baton Rouge, so I'm well equipped for the job. I'm hoping that all of you, especially people that's here tonight, that you're from the naval base, because I have 1 precinct in the naval base that's part of the East Bank. But I am enthusiastic about being on the Plaquemines Parish Council after 42 years of being on the other side. So I look forward to being a representative. And I also look forward to something going to be historical, because, I'd be at odds with Belle Chasse, but, I'm going to have to change my tone because I have a precinct in Belle Chasse, so we're going to have to have a love relationship, the council members. So I have an interest in Belle Chasse, too, being a representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Next, we will go to District 2. Mr. Brian Champagne, you have 1 minute.
Our quality of life is important to me, and as a councilman, I want to ensure that our infrastructure is properly maintained and our parish employees have the proper tools, equipment, manpower to meet those requirements. We need to reimagine the F. Edward Hebert corridor and seek to develop that area. We need to get LADOTD re-engaged on the traffic circle and get that built at the Woodland intersection with F. Edward Hebert. We need to work with the administration to develop and improve the athletic facilities on both the government complex and Cypress Park. I will seek grant funding to develop fitness tracks from Springwood to the parks, utilizing public servitudes to link those neighborhoods to the corridor so that our community can ride bikes, walk, or run to the newly renovated green space. I will work with the administration and other local and state officials to push for the construction of the Peters Road bypass so that we can divert heavy industrial traffic and dangerous cargoes away from where we work, worship, and go to school. I will fully support the development of the Venture Global LNG facility and the container port complex. I will work with our parish to make sure this happens because it will increase our tax base and provide good paying jobs for our community. I'm currently a project manager for Belle Chasse based construction company and have leadership positions for 28 of my 33 years in the Army. I've served 2 combat tours in Iraq. My leadership experience is what sets me apart from my candidates. I'm Brian Champagne. I've served our country for 33 years, and I'd like to serve District 2 for the next 4.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Daniel Morrell, you have 1 minute for introduction.
How you doing? Daniel Morrell here. I'm married, 17 years, 3 boys in the parish, Devin, Brendan, and Aiden. This is my 8th year on the Plaquemines Parish School Board. We're a high-performing district. We're going to keep it that way. I've served 2 years as the vice president. I'm the current chair of the Intergovernmental Committee. I currently serve as the District 6 representative of the Republican Executive Committee, and I serve on the Belle Chasse YMCA. I've coached 8 years of baseball at the Plaquemines Parish Recreation Department. I can tell you how bad that looks. I've served 2 separate years as the president of Springwood Homeowners Association. Anybody who lives in an HOA, you know that 2 years as a president takes 10 years off of your life. I also fought the current redistricting maps. I've teamed up with other school board members to create a more compact map, which never saw the day of light. I'm a member of the Plaquemines Parish Social Aid Club. I support the port 110%. I've also, as this is a business community, I've supported every ITEP, which is an industrial tax exemption program that has come before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrell. Next for District 3, Mr. Corey Arborough. You have 1 minute for your introduction.
Thank you, Reed. I'm Corey Arborough, former school board member, and in 2019 was elected as council member for District 3. I have over 20 years management experience and born and raised in Plaquemines Parish. I graduated from Belle Chasse High School and attended Delgado Community College and studied business administration. My wife of 16 years, Stacy, is a school nurse at the Belle Chasse Primary. We have 3 children, Chase, Sydney, and Cade. I'm a lifelong resident of Belle Chasse, and I've spent many years contributing and helping my community. My involvement began long before my political aspirations. I'm a member of the Plaquemines Association of Business and Industry for 13 years, former Education Workforce Committee member and chair of the Tourism Committee. I'm also a member of the Rotary Club of Belle Chasse for 13 years, past president for 2 years, member of the Plaquemines Social Aid and Pleasure Club, Pelican member of the Republican Women of Louisiana, and a member of the Italian American Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arborough. Finally, for the introductions, District 3, Mr. Chris Schultz. You have 1 minute.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Schultz. I'm running for District 3 council member. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised here in Plaquemines, lived in District 3 pretty much my whole life. I attended Louisiana Tech University where I got degrees in aviation and accounting along with minors in finance and management. I met my wife, which we've been married for 13 years. We have 2 children. One is 8 and one is 1 year old. I am a CPA and a certified fraud examiner, and currently I'm an audit manager for a top 25 regional accounting firm. My specialty in doing audits is governmental audits. So I feel like I can bring something to the table knowing how other governments around the state and the country operate. For far too long, we voted for who we know and who our friends are and everything, and we need somebody on the council that can bring something to the table. And I feel like I fought the tolls. I was part of the no tolls group. I am a CPA. I know budgets, and I feel like I can bring something to the table. No more status quo.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Go ahead and keep the mic because we'll start with you for the first question. So the question is for all the candidates, and I will repeat it as we go down the line by district. So we'll start with District 3 with Mr. Chris Schultz going first. And the question is, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general? You have 1 minute.
So overall, I think District 3, it's the same for the district and the parish. We have drainage and highways or roads. We have pumps that are not fully operational. We have backup generators that are not fully operational or in some cases not installed. We have drainage canals that need to be cleaned out. We have, my understanding is workforce issues, and this is, we live in South Louisiana, so we need our drainage department 100%. As it deals with roads, I mean, we see the nightmare day in, day out on Highway 23. I understand it's a state highway, and we see the bridge going up, and that's a major issue, but as a council member, I'll be on the phone every day with DOTD if that's what it takes to get answers. People are asking questions, and we have no answers. So we have roads crumbling down in Jesuit Bend and farther south. We have drainage issues throughout the parish. So I think overall it's drainage and roads in both the district and the parish as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Arbora, same question.
For District 3 and the entire parish, it is critical that we find funding to maintain and improve our drainage and pump stations. I will work with the administration and fellow council members to identify ways to make that happen. District 3 specifically needs a backup generator to the Good News pump station that came on service in 2021. A grant has been applied for to cover the cost, and we are confident that that will be approved. And we also need additional work with the state for the highways, and although we just had resurfacing of the highway, there continued collaboration with them for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arbora. So now to District 2, and we'll start with Mr. Daniel Morrell. Mr. Morrell, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general?
For District 2, $100,000 was just spent on the replacement of turbine number 3 at Belle Chasse Pump Station number 2. This is the most critical pump station in District 2. Every outfall canal in District 2 runs into this. With this replacement, it's now at 100% capacity. We need to keep it that way. We need to utilize the impact fees from neighborhoods to replace and repair any infrastructure projects that are affected by these neighborhoods. These funds currently are being placed into the general fund and should not be. There's a law that has decided that. We also need to make sure the completion of the roundabout at F. Edward Hebert and Woodland is complete. $2 million has been appropriated to the roundabout at F. Edward Hebert and Woodland. That is a zero cost to the parish. It was funded by the state and the RPC. The project is currently on hold until the bridge is complete. The state did not want to run two projects at the same time as we see that going on now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morrell. Mr. Brian Champagne, same question.
In District 2, the priority is certainly drainage. We shouldn't find out that we did last year that 2 of our 3 pumps are out the day before a hurricane. I know some of that's been addressed, but it's something that we should stay on the forefront of our thinking. Our electrical infrastructure is very fragile. I'm sure most of you in District 2 live in District 2 have experienced that. It seems like every storm we have, the power goes out. And that seems to be a Louisiana-centric issue, but that's something that's very important in District 2. Consequently, when the electrical system goes down, number 3, the sewer begins to back up, particularly in my neighborhood. I know in Springwood it backs up. It's all over the streets because the lift stations don't work. And then the last thing would be our water. When our water system is fragile as well. And when we look at the parish on a whole, they're very similar. Again, drainage for the entire parish is the number 1 issue. We need to make sure that our ditches are clean and have the capacity to flow water. Electrical, again, it's fragile down in the low end of the parish. But the priorities change down there. Theirs is certainly water, and we see that now with the impact of the saltwater intrusion, and they're having issues with good drinking water, and we need to have a reverse osmosis machine. We definitely need to make sure that is rectified. And lastly with them would be sewer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Tyrone Edwards, candidate in District 1, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general?
Hurricane protection and federalized levees on the East Bank. We are in a dire situation to hold East Bank. We have people right now, if anything happened to their house, and thank God we didn't have a hurricane, everybody on the East Bank would have to elevate their house. So levee protection, federalized levee is key. The biggest problem I see with this Plaquemines Parish government is the council, legislative, and executive branch have gone mad. There's no unity between the legislative body and the executive body, and it's tearing this parish apart. There's a few that are taking place. Like in the 42 years I've been dealing with parish government, even when it was 5, it wasn't as bad. And so right now we have to change that relationship. That's very important. And then we have to find a way to find an economic engine that make this parish work. And so I'm hoping that we can get together with this poke that we're supposed to do to be economic engine for this parish. But more important, there must be some unity between the legislative and the executive branch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. For the next question, we'll start with District 2, and we'll start with Mr. Brian Champagne. Question 2. Do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? You have 1 minute.
Yeah, I think the board should be comprised of a board of commissioners that possess a wealth of experience in operating a port, international business, and port operations, not by a council. And I use an example. If you open a bakery, would you want the council showing up to bake your cakes? No, you would not. You would want someone who knows how to bake. I know that's a simple example, but it's apropos. We need to have professionals who compete on a global market and a global scale, because that's the environment that we'll be operating in. When you look at the ports that we'd be competing against, Mobile, Galveston, Port of Southeast Louisiana, Port of New Orleans, they're run by an independent board of commissioners who are wise in the way ports operate and international business. That's where we need to be.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Daniel Morrell, same question.
Same question. Real quick, I forgot to answer the parish's needs on the first question, so I'd just like to answer that. I'd just like to say, and it'll go into my 1 minute, I believe that the raising of Highway 23 all the way to Venice needs to take a priority again. It's a critical roadway for the whole parish. I also believe we need to work with our state partners on the Walker Road bypass and rail relocation. This will keep the trains and the heavy trucks off the critical parts of Highway 23. As far as question number 2, 100%. There needs to be a change in the structure. People in the shipping industry want to do business with like-minded people who understand the maritime industry, not politicians. This board needs to be able to make decisions based on commerce and free market conditions. No politician should be on this board, as some have said in the past. All you have to do is look at the New Orleans sewage or board to board. We know how that ended.
Thank you, Mr. Morrell. Now to District 3. Mr. Corey Arborough, do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? You have 1 minute.
There are 64 parishes and 30 ports in the state of Louisiana. We are the only governing body that serves in both capacities. We're also the only port board where skills and qualifications aren't required to hold that position. I believe we should adhere to the similar standards that successful ports in the area follow and create legislation to transition to an independent professional port board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arborough. Mr. Chris Schultz, same question, 1 minute.
Again, look at every port in the state. We're the only ones that has the same governing body as both the council and the port. Every other one is either by appointment or a separate election. We have way too much politics going on in our council, and we need that taken out of the port. It hurts the port. We need to take the politics out. I will work with any council member to get this done. It will require a change to the charter, so let the people vote on it ultimately. As for the skills and qualification comment, we know we're running for council and port governing body, so if we don't have skills, then why are we running? I mean, am I qualified? Yes, but I think it needs to be taken out from under council.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Back to District 1, Mr. Tyrone Edwards. Do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish?
Absolutely. I am absolutely in favor of the parish council being commissioners. I'm afraid of privatizing our port, because what it means where business people control it, and it would not be the economic engine that we need for ourselves. It become private owned, private developer. We should own all part of the infrastructure. Now, I believe if we have several terminals, we can lease terminal out, but I'm not for controlling it. What we need to do is make sure our council members who or board of commissioners do the right thing, but I'm totally against the council not being post commissioners.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. So the next question, again, a 1-minute response. Mr. Edwards, will keep with you. So Mr. Tyrone Edwards, the next question is, it has been discussed in the past of Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Why would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure, or would you not be? Why or why not? 1 minute.
I am absolutely against the 5-2 proposition. I am for 9 single-member district. What most of us have forgotten in this parish, we had a 10-ward system in this parish. Prior to 1961, we went to a 5-member commission council. And I remember Mr. Peavox and Judge Morton, a lot of people who was pushing for 9 single-member district being effective. I think to go to 5-2 is the dilute power, is about power and control, putting power and control in a few individuals. I am totally against that. I would use every breath in my body to fight it, as I've been doing every time it come up. I'm at the forefront of it, and I'm not moving it, because power and control should not be in the hands of the few.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Next, we'll go to District 2. We'll start with Mr. Daniel Morrell first for the response. Mr. Morrell, it has been discussed in the past Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure? Why or why not?
I would 100% support a 5 and 2 board. The reasons why: it gives you 3 representatives to now call if you have a problem instead of 1. Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish, St. Bernard Parish, all very close to us, connected to us, all have a 5 and 2 makeup. Seems to work fine for them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morrell. Mr. Brian Champagne, same question.
Yeah, I'm for the 5 and 2. I believe in replicating success. And when I look at Jefferson Parish and St. Bernard Parish, I see 2 successful parishes with similar geographical challenges, but they operate very successfully, and they have larger populations. I see that the 2 at-large council members add value to the seat, because they not only represent a single district, but they represent a region, and they can be a unifying force which brings the parish together rather than having, a up the road, down the road, East Bank. They will enable us to come together as a whole. They're a unifying force, and for those areas that are limited to 1 representative, they now have more than 1. You'll have the 2 at-large councilmen. So I see it as being a successful alternative to what we're actually doing now.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Next, we'll go to District 3, and Mr. Chris Schultz, you will start. The question being, it has been discussed in the past, the Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure? Why or why not? 1 minute.
I am in favor of the 5 and 2 system. We have way too many council members for our population. If you look at the expenses related to council member salaries, assistant salaries, supplies, etc. I mean, why are we, based on our population, need 9 council members? Therefore, I support the 5 and 2 system, even if it means losing my position in the future. I mean, it needs to be done. However, we need to come up with a plan that protects all residents. We can't just go. I'll say the 5 systems will be based on census, but we got to make sure that at-large positions are formatted correctly that protects all residents. In the past, there was flaws in the language of the ordinances that was tried, but I'll work with any council members to work on that, and ultimately it will be a change of the charter. Again, let it go to the vote of the people. It gets stopped by the council every time. Let it go to the vote of the people. Let's work together and find a solution.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Mr. Corey Arborough, same question.
I have tried twice to bring this to the vote of the people of Plaquemines. I truly believe that less government, specifically 5 and 2, is the most important thing we can do to move Plaquemines Parish forward. By increasing representation to everyone, and I believe it will help lead the way to unify our parish, and I will continue to bring this to the table if reelected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arborough. Keep the mic, because we'll stick with you for the next round of questions. And with District 3. Again, 1 minute response. So the next question, the parish budget is in dire straits. As you all should know, the oil and gas royalties of the parish are down from approximately $40 million 10 years ago to about $8 million in 2021. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward? 1 minute, Ms. Arbor.
Besides restructuring the Port Board of Commissioners, bringing in leaders that will represent us professionally and finish the plan that was started, I will promote local government collaboration with surrounding parishes and revitalize our economic development and tourism department. We need to come together and encourage business, not fight it. Plaquemines Parish still has a lot to offer, and together we can keep it a desirable place for our children to return and raise their families.
Thank you, Mr. Arbor. Mr. Chris Schultz, same question.
So as a CPA and governmental auditor, this is what I do every day. I look at other governments' budgets and their accounting systems and information. First, I'll look through our budget and see if we're wasting any money and ways to improve that. Second, I know knowledge of grants. My specialty is single audits. I know I'll work with the grant department and make sure we're pursuing all grants that are available to us. If not, I'll work with the administration to go after those grants. Next, we need to bring in new businesses, increase our tax base. We have a lot of businesses that have left over the past couple of years. We need to talk to them, have an open dialogue with current businesses, make sure they're not struggling, what's going on, are they thinking about leaving, and what we can do as a government to help them. So we need to work together with our businesses and make sure our businesses increase our tax base. So if you have a fire, who are you gonna call? A firefighter. If you have financial issues, who are you gonna call? A CPA. Well, I guess you could call me as a firefighter also on the fire.
All right, thank you, Mr. Schultz. Going to District 2, we'll start with Mr. Brian Champagne. Again, the question, the parish budget is in dire straits. As you all should know, the oil and gas royalties of the parish are down from approximately $40 million 10 years ago to about $8 million in 2021. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward? Mr. Champagne, you have 1 minute.
I think the solution begins with a forensic analysis of our actual budget. We certainly need to pay our operating costs and must-have items, and then determine what funds we have and what funds we need. And we have to prioritize those things. Secondly, we need to make Plaquemines Parish business-friendly. One of the things we talked about earlier was having the Port Commission here to draw that business in here. By having professionals who run our port, we should be able to attract business and make people more eager to invest in that port facility. Number two is we need to make sure that our council and administration have a cooperative relationship rather than an adversarial one. As an investor, when you look at some of the meetings, the council meetings, it tends to drive off investors when they're at each other's throats. So I think that's one of the things that I could immediately impact, is bringing a sense of professionalism in our government organization. Plaquemines Parish is a great place to do business. We need to continue to advertise our parish. We have the last bit of virgin territory along the Mississippi River, and we need to take advantage of that and advertise Plaquemines.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Daniel Morel, you're next with the same question. You have 1 minute.
We need to support the port and its growth on both the East Bank and the West Bank side of the river. After all, it's the gateway to the trade of North America. We need to fund the budget we need to fund in the budget an economic development and tourism department. That department should work hand in hand with groups just like this, PABI, WBIA, GNO Inc., and JEDCO. Those groups have a wealth of knowledge that we don't even tap.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morel. Back to District 1, Mr. Tyrone Edwards. As you know, the oil and gas royalties of the parish are down from $40 million 10 years ago to about $8 million in 2021, which has certainly put the parish budget in dire straits. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward?
Well, first of all, I can't do it. It has to be a collaborative effort between the legislative and the executive branch. No one individual can solve the problem. We have to be. I think the Pope would be a great example of economic engine if we use it right. And I'm still against it being privatized, but if we get somebody to bring a partner in here, would do that so it can generate revenue for. Looking at our relationship with Global Venture, how can we use them for capital? We don't have to go out and borrow a lot of money from a lot of people. We got Global Venture in here. I mean, it's a Fortune 500 company. How do we utilize them to help over some of the financial need. But we have to come together as a body, the legislative and executive branch, and make this work. I love what the gentleman said. The port really was supposed to be on the east bank of the river. Still land available where we can do container. I think that Mr. Sanders had some great ideas, but it would never materialize because the council changed. Once they took a committee that was put together maybe 8 years ago and turned into commission, this council been messed up as it relates to the port.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edwards. All right, the final comments. You have 30 seconds just to wrap up and say whatever you'd like to say to the potential voters of the parish. And we will start back with District 1. Mr. Tyrone Edwards, you have 30 seconds for your final comment.
I hope the folks in District 1 and the 1 precinct on the Navy base really consider me as your candidate. I am a serious advocate. I try to bring power to truth everywhere. I stand up for the truth. I'm not afraid to speak for the truth. And I love what I do. I love Plaquemines Parish. Of course, I have a great love for the East Bank of the river. I still think it's the best bank of the river. And I love this parish. And I hope people look at my many, many years, 42 years I've been advocating on the other side. I'm prepared, I'm qualified, and I'm committed to fight for the East Bank of the river.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. For District 2, Mr. Brian Champagne, 30 seconds for your final comment.
I served 33 years in the military. 28 years of those were in leadership positions. I've worked with global leaders. I've worked with different foreign militaries. But one of the key things I was able to do, one of the most fortunate things I was able to do, was be involved in critical response in hurricanes in Plaquemines Parish when I was in the military since Hurricane Katrina. I worked directly with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security. Worked to help develop the Web EOC program, so I'm very familiar with hurricane response and how that works. That's very important to our parish. I'll bring that wealth of experience. I've also have a vast experience in project management and construction that I'll bring to also help as a councilman for District 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Champagne. Mr. Daniel Morrell, 30 seconds, final comment.
8 years on a board of 9. 8 years. We made a lot of things happen. We're still #1 school board in the district, basically. Well, in the greater New Orleans area. We're high performing. We keep it that way because we get along. We fail as a parish to remember that we're all one. We're all one. The East Bank, the West Bank, down the road, up the road, wherever you want to say you're from, we're still from Plaquemines Parish. That's the biggest problem we have right now. That's it. We need to get back to being one and remembering who our neighbors are and what we do for each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morrell. Mr. Corey Arborough, final comments, 30 seconds.
As I said, I'm a lifelong resident, and for most of my life, including when I was a young boy as a Boy Scout, I've fought for this community and done as much as I can. I will continue to do that for y'all as y'all council member for District 3 and fight for the entire parish, and again, make it a better place for our kids to raise their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arborough. Mr. Chris Schultz, final comment, 30 seconds.
So I want you to think over the past couple of years, have you been happy with the results? If not, I ask you to consider a change. I'm a CPA. I have a wealth of governmental knowledge that I can bring to the table. I'm involved in the community through the fire department and coaching at the recreation department, YMCA. And I'm thinking about our children's future. I want our children to have a bright future here in this parish, and I will work with any council member, East Bank, Belle Chasse, down the road, wherever, to improve this parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Let's give these candidates a round of applause, please. All right, you gentlemen are excused. Would the candidates for District 4 and District 5 please come up? As you know, we're going to just try to take just 2 or 3 minutes to change, and we'll get started. Thank you. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started with our next slate of candidates here. So what you have on stage now are candidates from District 4 and District 5. It's going to be the same format for this group, and then we'll have District 6 and District 8 after this group goes. So we'll start with District 4. Again, this is just numerical order and alphabetical order. District 4, Mr. David Clark, you have 1 minute to introduce yourself. Who are you and why are you running?
Hi, good evening. My name is David Clark. I was born in Port Sulphur, grew up in Venice, moved up to Belle Chasse after Katrina. I grew up as a fisherman, a commercial fisherman. I went to work for Chevron 37 years ago, currently work for them now, and I own multiple small businesses in 3 different parishes. The reason I'm running, I think it's time for change. I think the direction that we're taking our parish, just have some concerns with that. I think we need new ideas and fresh blood, and just looking to make a change.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Next, Mr. Joseph Greco. You have 1 minute for your introduction.
My name is Joseph Greco. I've been a resident of this parish all my life. I worked a lot in construction, a lot of major infrastructure. I'm now working with an engineering group, and I oversee multi-million-dollar projects all over the state. I've worked in Port Fourchon, doing a coastal restoration project out there back in 2013. I did the McDonough 35, the school back here, across the river behind City Park. And I travel all over the state doing work in the infrastructure side. I worked for the Plaquemines Parish government for a few years, and I was over the drainage department. They combined heavy equipment and drainage together, calling it flood control, 2 of the biggest departments in the parish. I had the pleasure of working with Mr. Kirk Lapine and Scott Roussel, and we fought a lot of the storms together. And I feel like I'm the best qualified candidate because I'm going to fight to relinquish the tolls that was hung around the constituents' neck.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Next, Dr. Stuart Gouy, you have 1 minute for your introduction. Who are you and why are you running?
Thank you, Reed. My name is Stuart Gouy. I was born at Port Sulphur General Hospital, grew up in Empire, and graduated from Parish High School. I then attended Southeastern Louisiana University and got my Bachelor of Science, and then subsequently went to LSU School of Dentistry. I've been practicing and serving this community for 47 years. I am seeking re-election to the District 4 seat of the Plaquemines Council. What I bring to the table is experience and leadership. And if re-elected, I will continue to represent District 4 and my parish with respect and professionalism. I welcome the opportunity to continue my service to you, and I ask for your support.
Thank you, Dr. Gouy. Next, District 5. First, we have Mr. Jason Dillman. Mr. Dillman, you have 1 minute for your introduction on who you are and why you are running.
Thank you, Reed. My name is Jason Dillman, and during the past 17 years working and living in Plaquemines Parish, I've witnessed many changes in the parish government that have motivated me to get involved and make a difference. Through my unique work experience as a real estate investor, I continue to be an advocate for economic development here. And recently, we've seen a decline in our local economic environment, which has resulted in a dramatic loss of tax revenue. Which begs the questions, how do we increase revenue without raising taxes? My answer is relatively simple. We've got to create a better brand to promote this parish that's invitive and conducive to the economic well-being of all the parish, not just my District 5, the whole parish. It's got to be conducive for everybody to operate here. We need a better brand. It needs to be better. We can do way better. We deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillman. Next, District 5, Mr. Rob Forshey. Who are you and why are you running? You have 1 minute.
Well, as you stated, my name's Rob Forshey. We need to vote and elect citizens who will have shown that they care about our parish. and the citizens of their district. I am that guy. I have shown that for the past 3 years, attending council meetings and attending and voicing the voices of for the citizens of this parish. I have spoken against the P3 projects, toll bridge, train to nowhere, and property taxes increases. These have been some serious focuses of mine. From my early years, I have worked with budgets and have been required to in order to bring in projects below their budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forche. Next, we have Mr. Dustin Galley. You have 1 minute for your introduction, who you are, and why you're running.
Hello, my name is Dustin Galley. I am running for councilman in District 5. I'm an experienced project manager who has worked with the Army Corps of Engineers in overseeing critical infrastructure projects such as earth levees, concrete T-walls, floodgates, pump stations, and highways throughout the New Orleans and Plaquemines Parish area. I've done a lot of contract work with the Corps of Engineers, getting the contract started and all throughout phases of the work process, overseeing the project and making sure that it was built according to plans and specifications. I'm also an experienced program delivery manager with FEMA in public assistance that was helping towns, cities, and parishes put together their FEMA claim for reimbursement. I was also appointed to a team leader overseeing the largest team in Florida for Hurricane Irma during public assistance and submitting projects and getting reimbursement for them. I was also appointed to be in a strike team for overseeing fraud projects. Thank you. My name is Dustin Galley.
Thank you, Mr. Galley. Next, final for District 5, Ms. Patty McCarty. You have 1 minute for your introduction.
Thank you, Reed. I'd also like to thank Bobby, and Mr. Dennis Russo for putting on this show and for allowing us to have this here. My name is Patricia McCarty. Many of you know me as Patty McCarty. I feel like I've been trained to be a leader and to do this all my life. I'm not going to go into the details of my background, but I've recently answered questions in the Plaquemines Gazette that you can learn about regarding District 5. You can also go to my website, www.plmccarty, to see pictures of District 5 and to see my extensive background and training. I feel that I have the heart and soul for this parish, and I'm ready to work for you. So you'll see that I'm well-rounded, my background is strong, but I feel that I am a person of the people, and I will work with the citizens to resolve the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarty, and keep the mic because we'll start with you for the next round for the very first question here. Ms. McCarty, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general? You have 1 minute.
Infrastructure is everywhere in District 5, it feels like. We have roads closed, but we have the second largest project going on in the parish, and that is obviously the bridge construction. We have to mitigate the ancillary issues that are caused by the bridge construction, meaning traffic safety, road closures, rebuilding roads, rebuilding green space that has been taken away in Fort St. Leon North. We have to find revenue generating sources for the Medal of Honor Park, take care of the Medal of Honor Park, mitigate new development because we have a lot of empty land. So, and then we also have the new base opening, bridge going in to the base. So infrastructure is everywhere in District 5. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarty. Next, Mr. Dustin Gowling, same question.
I would say the traffic issues concerning Barrier Road, with the base becoming the main gate for Barrier Road, is going to be a traffic issue and concern for a lot of our residents that's on that area. Also, flood control issues with drainage in the streets, canals, and pump stations, all adequately working and being properly maintained is a big concern. And we are in the disaster zone and frequently receive storms, so that does need to be checked upon. Also, the toll bridge is a big issue, and I am supporting the litigation challenge in the toll bridge, be a voice of the people by community and providing responsible budget spending and economic and community growth, public safety. So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Galley. Next, Mr. Rob Forshey. The question being, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general? You have 1 minute.
Okay, so drainage would probably be the first. Traffic, toll bridge, blight. We have a serious problem in this parish or in Belle Chasse, mainly for blight. We also have issues with exiting and entering our neighborhoods. Fort St. Leon number 1 is tragically affected by this toll bridge. If you want to try to enter and exit that neighborhood, it is a nightmare. Then we have, as was stated, the front gate being moved to Barrier Road. There's another problem. The problems in this parish can be fixed very easily with some attention and getting to the people who can make those changes, DOTD and the like. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forshey. Next, we have Mr. Jason Dillman. You have 1 minute, same question.
Sure, I think that not only in District 5, but parish-wide, the toll bridge is a major concern of everybody, and it poses a lot of safety issues that are really unnecessary. The difference is because, the state had a plan, and we didn't. We got caught with our pants down. I know it's funny to say that, but it's true. And if we're not working together with the state, we're not working together with the federal government, then that's what's going to continue to happen. And thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Dillman. Next, District 4, we'll start with Dr. Stuart Gouy. What do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Reed. In District 4, of course, being part of Belle Chasse, we do have to keep on top of drainage. Our pump stations need to be upgraded to where they're adequate. I'd like to see the rail removed from Belle Chasse, which also includes District 4, and things are underway with the port that we should see that happen. In regards to the parish, flood protection, insurance are just killing us. We also need to be able to complete our water system improvements so that we can push water from Belle Chasse to the end of the road down in Tidewater.
Thank you, Dr. Gouy. Next, Mr. Joseph Greco, same question.
Well, we have a drainage issue. I could tell y'all firsthand from experience because I lived it for the past 2 years. The vac truck is not draining and working and sucking down all the drainage that's been silted through. Our pump stations are depleted. I don't understand how we could put a toll for $100 million around the collar of the people's neck for the next 30 years, but you won't take that $100 million and repair the pump stations, because without the infrastructure and the pump stations and everything, because we live surrounded by water, and inside these pumping stations, they have inadequate mechanical issues as well as electronical issues, and we need to resolve them and get them completed and done to the best of our ability. And another thing that we have in District 4 is I've heard a lot of complaints because I've been going back and forth through and going up and down, and then people have been saying about the right-of-ways that haven't been being maintained. It's pretty much taxation without representation.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Final for District 4 for this question, Mr. David Clark. You have 1 minute.
Okay, I think the strain on the highways due to the increased traffic, new bridge, everybody wants it, shouldn't have to pay 10 times what it's worth. The strain on the fire department, EMS, and Plaquemines Parish Sheriff's Office due to the influx of residents. Drainage, everybody's talking about it. Upgrading and repairing our pump stations, clean out our ditches, repair and installation of street lighting, the installation of some red lights, especially at Edward A. Bear, where kids are getting out of school and vehicles are flying 60 miles an hour. But that's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, moving on to the next question, and for this, we'll start with District 5. Mr. Rob Forshey will have the first go at this question. So, Mr. Forshey, do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? You have 1 minute.
Okay, this is another hot topic. How about let's get the right people in the right position with the port that can run the port from the administration as it should be run. Creating another board is not needed. What we need is to get the right people in the right places and be the right team members to put this thing together. We have an issue with a hospital that is a perfect example of another board. We have a board in a non-functioning hospital with $21 million sitting in the bank, and we can barely put a Band-Aid on a patient that comes to our hospital. So we truly need to put the right people in the right positions, and I think that will cure our problems with the port. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forshey. Next, Mr. Dustin Galley, same question.
I think the council needs to assert themselves on this matter and be part of the commissioner. But I think we should bring some people from the outside of the council with professional experience that could provide valuable insight, strong leadership abilities, and move in the right direction to overcome the lack of infrastructure that is needed to get the port moving along. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galley. Ms. McCarty, same question, 1 minute.
I do believe that we need a professional board when we have a council that is also wearing a hat as a board member for a port. You have dual roles. Those roles are conflicting. One person's trying to bring business into the parish, the other person, her other personality, is supposed to be conserving the needs of the people. After you make decisions independently, then you come together. I have clients that, I have one particular client that sits on the board, the port board for Orleans Parish. You wouldn't believe the kind of connections and knowledge that he has. We don't have that as individuals. And then, from my experience of getting required to get a MBA at Tulane, we're required to do logistics. 6 months of a logistics class told me that I don't know how to run a port. It's very complicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarty. Now to Mr. Jason Dillman, our last candidate in District 5 for this question. Do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port Harbor and Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? You have 1 minute.
I greatly oppose the current structure of the port right now. It's a major conflict of interest. I'm not going to get into that right now. I think it needs to be appointed by disinterested third party that knows what they're talking about. Obviously, if I'm elected, I'm going to have to work in that capacity, and I'm qualified to do that. I've got an MBA in finance from the University of Florida, undergrad, all that kind of thing, and I really don't feel like I should be forced into being a port commissioner by a general election when I really am not technically qualified to run I mean, I can make decisions based on numbers, essentially, but I'm not a maritime professional, and I'm doing a disservice to everybody in this parish by really being I'm going to fight for whatever my district and my constituents want, obviously, but at the same time, I think I'm doing a disservice to my constituents by being elected to that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillman. And we'll move to District 4. Dr. Gui, same question.
I've worked with some great people on the council, and they have all been experts in their own field. I have yet to serve with someone who's an expert in the port field, yet we're making these critical decisions. Port is a business, and it's meant to make a profit. We need to restructure what we have, come to some agreement, and then lobby the legislature to change the statute that created this port into some other type of structure.
Thank you, Dr. Gui. Mr. Joseph Greco, same question. Do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? 1 minute.
Okay, I lived out in Port Fourchon for a year, where I watched how the port commissioners, how they govern. But it's a double-edged sword to sit here and let a private entity, I mean, if they're gonna do the right thing and take care of the port and be honorable and be able to keep the infrastructure up in the lower part of the parish, if that's what it's gonna be. But they also have to have oversight, I believe, as well. They need oversight because the parish should be able to reap from the benefits of the port. That's just my belief. I believe that the people of the parish should be able to be able to prosper from this, and the money that's generated and the revenues that's generated from the port, you know, it should be able to sustain and help the parish. Kind of like the Port East thing. I mean, it kind of went into like a privatization thing, and it's a parish entity, but yet the parish doesn't receive any funding from it at all. I mean, they get funded.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Greco. Mr. David Clark, you have 1 minute, same question.
Okay, great. Hey, we're looking at the structure we have now. Council can't work together. Council administration can't work together. The board and the port director can't work together. That's the structure we're looking at now. But with all that taking place, we landed the largest project taking place in the world right now. And we want to give that away to a private board. Right now is not the time to do that. We need to keep what we have. Looks like a majority of the council members want to do that right now. I'm totally against it. I think we need to keep it the way it's structured right now. We stand a chance on making big money out of this. We can flourish from this, and there's no reason for us to give it away. Now, there's not a project the parish does right now that does not seek special counsel, special professionals. We pay consultant fees on every project we do. And we will do the same with the port. We'll get those professionals in here to help us make those decisions we need to make. We can do that without giving the port away. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. All right, for the next question, we'll go back to District 5. This time we'll start with Mr. Dustin Galley. You'll start on this question. So the question is, it has been discussed in the past of Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure? Why or why not?
I think it would be a good way to cut some costs, even that means my position, but we must do it wisely. We have a big parish that covers both sides of the river, the East Bank and West Bank, and someone needs to represent the people and the citizens of the area and the parish. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Ms. Patty McCarty, same question.
I am in favor of a 5 and 2. And it's because our population is diminishing. Our residents are diminishing, rather. The population will soon grow because of all the construction. But our residents can be represented in a 5 and 2 very well. We also have to look at the structure of our government and re-engineer it overall so that we can be more efficient. And this is part of being more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCarty. Next, Mr. Dillman. Mr. Jason Dillman be next. Question being, again, it has been discussed in the past of Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure? Why or why not? 1 minute.
I'm absolutely in favor of a 5-2 council structure. I think we've got more representation than we need right now. It's just we're becoming a data-driven society, so things are easily. You can find things online on internet. If we do our jobs properly here, we can educate the public to where they can make better informed decisions should we start to invest in data. But I can't stress enough how much I'm in favor of the 5 and 2 structure. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dillman. Mr. Rob Forshey, the last candidate on this question for District 5. The same question, sir. 1 minute.
I am not in favor of a 5 and 2. I think that in order to have proper representation here in Plaquemines Parish, we are strung out on both sides of the river, and that this requires a 9-member council. I also believe that that we could cut some cost through sharing council secretaries. I think that that needs to be cut back. I think that 3 council secretaries, along with the council secretary, the councilman secretaries could be cut to 3, and along with the council secretary having an office of 2, that would give a 5-member assistance to all of the council members. That's where I would cut some serious dollars, and I think that would be adequate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forshey. So we'll move to District 4 now, and we'll start with Mr. Joseph Greco on this question. Mr. Greco has been discussed in the past. Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure? Why or why not? 1 minute.
The 5-2 council seems like it could work. You have the 9, but I'm sure a lot of y'all that was born and raised here, we had a whole lot of people a long time ago living in the parish. I remember the parish was thick and flourishing at one time. So now we got to the point where we had a panel of 9 people, and now that it's diminished and we're losing, people that are living down here are moving out in droves, and it's because of the infrastructure of the parish. Now, I'm for the 9-member panel, but I believe that the 5-member panel as well can work. But I mean, it's on a population. I mean, it's diminishing pretty quick. So, and I understand we want to cut and we want to make cuts, but I mean, we need to make cuts in the right places and stuff.
All right, we'll go to Mr. David Clark next for this one. So, Mr. Clark, same question. You have 1 minute.
Okay. With the geographical layout of the parish, the 9 members give a more diverse representation that reflects our communities throughout the parish. A 5-2 council with 2 at-large can potentially have a less populated communities without proper representation, with the larger communities getting the more representations. So no, I'm not for the 5-2. I mean, we're looking to save $70,000 getting rid of 2 councilmen. I think the representation for those smaller communities throughout our parish deserves better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. The final response for District 4, Dr. Stewart Gouy. You have 1 minute.
We need to look at what the demographics would entail and see what would be the most beneficial way to redistrict. I think at-large representation is essential to try to unite the parish, where if that would happen, I would be a voter who would have 3 representatives. I would have my district representative, and I would also have 2 at-large representatives. How that would look, we would have to take some time and do the demographics. But before any move would take place, it would have to go before the public for a vote, because a charter amendment is going to take 66% of the positive vote. So a series of public hearings, East Bank, West Bank, up the road, down the road, to inform the public, get a little more input, and then put it on the ballot as an initiative.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Gouy. For the next question, we'll go back to District 5 and start with Ms. Patty McCarty for the first response. And the question being, the parish budget is in dire straits. As you all should know, the oil and gas royalties of the parish are down from $40 million 10 years ago, approximately, to about $8 million in 2021. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward? Ms. McCarty, you have 1 minute.
First of all, we have to research our decisions. We recently lost about $35 million because of it putting the port, putting the ferries under the port to use money that was supposed to be used to pay for the land for the container terminal. So because of that, the container terminal land has now been purchased privately. Because it's been purchased privately, we would have received 5 levels of revenue. Now, with a private port, we receive 1 level of revenue. So with that 1 level of revenue, we will recoup about $12 million per year. But we have lost a lot of money. So we need better decisions. We need to research our decisions, and that's another reason why we need a professional port. So I propose to try to increase efficiency, accountability, and fiscal responsibility. I will work with my fellow council members and the people in the parish because we have smart people in this parish, and together we will come up with solutions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McCarty. Next, Mr. Dustin Galley, same question, 1 minute.
I think we need to have more budget meetings more often to discuss the budget and actual figures, to see where money needs to be spent and not wasted. We need to have someone that's proactive after chasing after grants and federal money so the parish can be spent more wisely. And also working together to better the parish as a whole. Need clear, open communication with the administration and council members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galley. Mr. Rob Forshey. Again, the question, the parish budget is in dire straits. As you all should know, the oil and gas royalties of the parish are down from approximately $40 million 10 years ago to about $8 million in 2021. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward? You have 1 minute.
Well, we had all business, right? We no longer have that. Now we have a port. We have the largest project going on in the world. And that port, that project alone can solve a lot of our problems if we do the right things with our money. Budget is something that I have around 30 years of experience managing projects from one side of this country to the other. In managing budgets, that is a major issue with our parish, and if we manage our money and we manage the funds that we have coming into this parish, we will be doing fine. And we will exceed with that project and the future projects coming to this port. We will solve our financial woes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Forshey. Finally, for District 5, Mr. Jason Dillman, the same question.
First of all, we've got to work together. We need to overhaul the budget. Look at each line item. It's got to be an in-depth thing. We've got to be invitive. We need economic development because if we don't have businesses here, we have to depend on federal money. And we've gotten away with that for a long time here, I feel like. But at the end of the day, we need businesses here. That's going to make the difference in this parish. We need businesses because the other alternative is to raise taxes, and nobody wants to raise taxes. Or we're going to be trying to get more grant funds. We're waiting on another hurricane. But if we want to move forward, we need businesses. It's that simple. We need business and business tax revenue. We can't give that revenue away. We need to keep it in-house. We need to keep it in the parish and continue to move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillman. Next, candidates for District 4. Question being, the parish budget in dire straits, as you all should know. Oil and gas revenues of the parish down from approximately $40 million 10 years ago to about $8 million in 2021. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward? We'll start with Dr. Stewart Gouy. You have 1 minute.
The reality of the oil and gas is not going away. We may see some improvement, but we have to do the best we can in using and trying to keep the oil and gas industry here and trying to develop it, but we'll never see the revenues that we've seen in the past. Back in 2013, the final phase of the Port Master Plan was done, and that was to start developing our riverfront. At this point, you can take a ride down the road and see the facility at Venture Global. Massive, as Rob said, biggest one in 2022 in the world. We need to work with them, continue to work with them on their second phase. We need to continue to strive for the container port, the methanol facility just south of the coal plant. All of these things are realities, and they're happening right now. They're happening right now. So we need to continue those efforts to bring these facilities online and make them better and develop more.
Thank you, Dr. Gouy. Next, Mr. Joseph Greco, same question.
Without sounding redundant, the bottom line is infrastructure. We're not going to be able to attract companies down here. ConocoPhillips is one of our biggest tax bases, and Hurricane Ida wiped them out, and now they left. Barrier, we had Barrier Construction, they were here, they left. All of our companies that come down here, they leave because we are prone to plenty of hurricanes, and we need to be able to solidify our parish. Like I said, the pump stations, the levees, everything. We're not going to be able to attract companies over here if we don't fix what we have right now in place. It's very dire and it's very important. I know a lot of people that live their own life in their little bubble. They've not been out there where I've been at on, going around the levees and everything, and it's scary. Knowing that I live here, it's scary. So my point being is we need to take care of the parish that where we live at, and then we're going to be able to attract different companies and stuff and bring them here.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Mr. David Clark, same question. 1 minute.
Well, we need to focus on economic development. I think everybody's talked about that. Reorganization of workforce, prioritization of projects according to needs, not wants. Work as one team, the council and the administration, and looking to share resources between government entities. I mean, we need to do that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. And keep the mic. We'll go ahead and start with you, and we'll just go down the line. For each one of you now have 30 seconds to give your final comments. So for District 4, starting off, Mr. David Clark, 30 seconds, final comment.
Okay, David Clark, number 70, hope to have your support. One thing, hopefully you got out of tonight, don't let us give your port away. It's going to be a moneymaker. We've waited this long. We've been through the pain. Now comes a reward. I'm passionate about what I do. I need to just have a chance. You're looking for change. I am your change. Just remember the same people that brought you the bridge, toll bridge, wants to take your port away. So.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Joseph Greco, 30 seconds, final comment.
My name is Joseph Greco. I'm running for District 4 councilman, and I'm going to fight to relinquish the tolls because I feel it's an unfair assessment for us to have to be able to pay hundreds of millions of dollars for a bridge that nobody else had to pay in lower coast Algiers for a toll, and nobody had to pay a couple of years ago whenever they did the bridge over there in Huey P. Long. So I'm going to fight for the people of this parish and for District 4.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Dr. Stewart Gouy, 30 seconds, final comment.
Thank everyone for coming. I'm looking for your support. I know what my track record is. I'll continue with that. And as I said before, I will continue to show respect to everyone in this parish and act as a professional. If that's what you want, you know where to vote.
Thank you, Dr. Gui. Mr. Jason Dillman, District 5, 30 seconds, final comment.
Just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Want to thank all the candidates for coming out. Everybody's done well putting their name out on the line. It takes a lot for people to actually do this. So everybody in here is really taking the time to show up. And I mean, at the end of the day, we've got to work together no matter who wins these elections. There shouldn't be any hatred. It shouldn't be personal. It's got to be political, and to an extent, obviously. But at the end of the day, I need your support. I'll work hard for you guys. I'll work really hard for you guys, and I appreciate y'all coming out to see us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillman. Mr. Rob Forche, 30 seconds for your final comment.
Well, my employment experience in the past 3 years of speaking up for the citizens of this parish at all the council meetings sets me apart from the other candidates here in District 5. Some of the issues that were brought up today, the port, the council reduction, these things all have to come to the vote of the people. I think that's definitely something that will and needs to come to the people. I will support the citizens of District 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Forche. Mr. Dustin Galley, you have 30 seconds, final comment.
Thank you, PABI, and thank you for the residents for showing up tonight. Since you know a little bit about my background with being with the Army Corps of Engineers and FEMA, I do know some government and how to cut some red tape, and my experience should speak for itself. So I hope for your consideration on November 8th to come together and make District 5 and Plaquemines Parish a better place to live, do business, and raise our families. I think that's what we all want. I'm a voice for the people. I'm going to be fighting for you and speaking what you want to say for you. And transparent as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galley. Ms. Patty McCarty, you have 30 seconds for your final comment.
Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight and for your seeking knowledge about this event. I've been endorsed by the Plaquemines Republican Parish Committee and GNOR PAC. With my education, history, problem-solving skills, and personal drive, I can lead this parish into the future. My name is Patricia McCarty, and if you want to see what sets me apart from my competition, please visit my website, plmccarty.com. It's still under construction. I appreciate it.
All right, let's give these candidates a round of applause, please. All right, y'all may be excused. And would the candidates for District 8 and District 6 please come to the stage?
Sounded like a broken record.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get rolling here with our next slate of candidates. Again, we're going to go in numerical order and alphabetical order within the districts. All right, starting with District 6, Ms. Stacy Madison, please introduce yourself, tell us who you are and why you are running. You have 1 minute.
Good evening. I'm Stacy Madison, and I believe in people over politics. I chose Plaquemines Parish to call home over 18 years ago. In those 18 years, I was a vocal advocate to keep flood insurance affordable, launching a true grassroots effort through social media that gained national attention. I have volunteered hundreds of hours with different organizations to improve our community. In fact, this morning, I was awarded the Presidential Points of Light Award to recognize my efforts in making our community a better place. I have successfully wrote grants to fund life-saving efforts while on the board of PAWS, as well as grants for educational opportunities for my former students. I have accepted only one donation to my campaign, and it was from my mom. I owe no favors and believe in doing what is best for the people of our parish. If the last 4 years have taught us anything, it is that elections have consequences. We need to correct the mistakes of the past while planning for the future. I am ready to roll up my sleeves and do the real work to improve our community, our parish, and always choose the people of Plaquemines first.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. Next, we have Ms. Trudy Newberry of 1 minute for your introduction, who you are and why you are running.
Good evening. I'm Trudy Newberry, and I'm running for re-election to Council, District 6. I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish and a resident of Jesuit Bennett for the past 34 years. I understand what is important to my residents and the residents of Plaquemines Parish. First of all, I have successfully completed an $850,000 drainage project along with other small projects, but we still have a long way to go in drainage. We have a $4.8 million sewage project that's coming to an end. And third, we have the most important project. It's a $12.5 million project, levee construction project going on. And I'm also seeking funding to have the lot of receipt closures to give the Jesuit Bend community the protection they deserve. That's impressive, the total of over $18 million, and I think that's pretty good for the District 6, and I want to continue to work hard for those people of District 6 and Plaquemines Parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry. Next, final candidate, District 6, Mr. Ronnie Newsom. 1 minute for your introduction.
Thank you, Reed. Thank PABI for having us. My name is Lord Ronnie Newsom, Jr. I'm also running for council in District 6. I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish, Belle Chasse, matter of fact. I'm a proud graduate of Belle Chasse High School, 1984, so we're going back a little ways. I'm here to talk about my plan for Plaquemines, in particular District 6. My plan is called Path to Progress. Most of the folks in District 6 have seen it. It's got 4 parts: jobs, money, infrastructure, and partnership. Jobs. We have to keep and attract good-paying jobs for all our residents in whatever industry they work in. A good paycheck solves a lot of problems for families in this parish. Money. We have to spend our money wisely and in the most effective manner. We need to get the most bang for our buck. Infrastructure, drainage, roads, levee protection, we go on and on. That's our key infrastructure. These are some of the things that keep our quality of life high. And partnership, my last one, we gotta work together. It's the key. We one parish. We gotta work with the council, the administration, the port. All these things gotta work together.
Okay, time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Next, for District 8, first, Mr. Mitch Jurasich. Introduce yourself and tell us why you're running.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mitch Jurasich. I'm a lifelong resident of Plaquemines Parish, primarily growing up in the lower end of the parish. I'm a third-generation oyster farmer, living and working off the land all my life. I know the water very well as the land around me. My surroundings are second to none. I know them like the back of my hand. My love for this parish is second to none. And I've been sitting back for many years watching what's going on. And it's time for a change. And I'm the one that I hope can help make that change, because I'm sick and tired of watching what's been going on. I am a fighter. I believe in what I believe in, and I believe in what's right for our people. The people come first, and we have to put that back in perspective. I also believe in unity, and I want to unify this parish. There is no north and south. It's one parish as a whole, and that's what I'm going to work for. Stop the bickering, let's move forward, and let's make something happen positive for our parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurasich. Next, we have Mr. Avery Riley. You have 1 minute for your introduction.
Avery Riley, I'm a native of Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Relocated to Belle Chasse after Hurricane Katrina, where I attended Belle Chasse High School, and I'm a 2008 graduate of Belle Chasse High School. Following Belle Chasse High School, I went on to Louisiana State University, where I received a bachelor's in sociology in 2012. Following LSU, I went on to Southern University Law Center, where I took a law degree in 2017 as a part-time evening student. During my time in law school, I worked full-time, first as the program specialist for the Louisiana Department of Health and Hospitals. After that, I was employed as the fixed assets manager for the city of Baton Rouge, East Baton Rouge Parish. I'm also have the honor and the privilege of being able to say that I get the opportunity to serve my great country as a member of the United States Army Reserves. Currently, I am employed as a staff attorney for the Plaquemines Parish Public Defender's Office. I feel that I'm the best person for this job because I feel that I bring youth, I bring a new perspective, I bring fresh ideas to the parish government that I feel will be beneficial to all of us. And I just ask for your support on November 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Next, District 8, Mr. John Talianisich, please introduce yourself. Tell us why you're running.
Yes, my name is John Talianisich. I'm born and raised down the road, and I'm a successful business owner of John Stowe and Service. Married to my beautiful wife, Bonnie, for 24 years. We have 3 beautiful children, Alexis, Gabrielle, and Michaela, and 2 beautiful and wonderful grandchildren, Cohen and Madeline. Basically, I made my mind up to run because I care. I have gave 28 years of my life fighting fire and seeing a lot of people in major distress. And I put that behind me, and I want to be your next councilman for District 8 because I care and I'm trustworthy and I want to be unified with this whole parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Talianisich. Keep the mic. We'll have you go first for the first question of the evening for this slate of candidates. The first question, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general? You have 1 minute.
Drainage, levee protection. Number 1, roads. The roads down the road and in District 8 are terrible. I know that firsthand as an emergency responder, trying to get to people in need and almost flipping a fire vehicle, and met with people on East Bayou Road. It's horrible to know that an ambulance can't get back to there when a heart attack victim is in need. It's terrible. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Talianisich. Next, we have Mr. Avery Riley. You have 1 minute. Same question.
First, I believe we need to address the issue of drainage. We need to make sure that our canals are free of obstruction, whether that's random tree branches, fallen trees, the lilies that accumulate inside the canals. Those things provide hazards when it comes to proper drainage. Also, we need to get better sewage. I know in District 8 in particular, we have a lot of people who still are not part of the city sewage system. We need to make sure that that happens. That needs to be a top priority for us. We also need to address the pump situation. We have a lot of pumps here in the parish that are out of date, not working. We need to make sure that that is one of our top priorities, not only when it comes to hurricane season, but before hurricane season, because by that time it's too late. So we need to address that issue immediately. Also, lighting. If you drive up and down the parish, especially District 8 on the southern end, you have a lot of areas where it's dark on the roads. I don't need to tell anyone here that when you combine dark highways with 3 feet of grass on the shoulders of the road, that's an accident waiting to happen. I mean, this is Plaquemines Parish. We have a lot of wildlife. We have a lot of people who travel and walk along the roads. It's only a matter of time before something bad happens due to that situation. So those are the 4 major things that I believe we need to address in terms of infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Finally, for District 8, in response to this question, Mr. Mitch Jurasich, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, definitely our levee system needs to stay up to par because, as you know, living in District 8, we're all prone to these high insurance rates and everything. So we definitely have to keep keep our levees up. We have to keep up with that. Also, drainage is another issue. It's not just the ditches need to be cleaned, but it's the culverts that cross the highways and everything to allow drainage. And in another situation we really have is our water plants are in dire need of repair, overhaul. Any of you who lived through, were here through Hurricane Ida and lost water, some of you for only maybe a day or so, know how important it is to have water. We have a big issue with our water plants. They're in dire need of repair. And without running water, we went without electricity, and when we lost water for all them days, it was really tough to live. So we definitely need to beef up our water supply system, especially with the growing areas. If we get this port developing moving forward, we're going to need a better water system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurasich. Now, moving back to District 6, we'll start with Mr. Ronnie Newsom. And the question being, what do you feel are the most important infrastructure priorities specifically for your district and for the parish in general? You have 1 minute.
Well, when I've been knocking on doors in District 6, the number one issue, and you guys heard it from everybody up here, is drainage. It's the number one issue throughout the parish, throughout every district. It has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed very soon. The answer, in my opinion, is simple. We have to clear the drains, clear the ditches, as Mitch spoke, culverts, keep those things flowing so the water will flow. Once the simple things are done, if there's still issues, we can work on those. Also, we spoke levee protection, flood protection. It's important. We have to keep the parish dry. We got to keep our residents dry. That's a quality of life that I deserve, you guys deserve, everyone deserves that. Those are the issues that we need to keep going. And we also have an issue now with the salt water backing up, reverse osmosis machine I talked about. We have to be able to, for the parish, to keep our residents with good quality drinking water. That's a must. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Next, Ms. Trudy Newberry, same question.
Yeah, I know this is a repetitive, but drainage is our major issue. We fight drainage issues on the board. We've talked about it. This is a major issue in my district. Our residents are concerned. They're scared. They want their ditches cut, their culverts cleaned, their canals taken care of. Anything and everything that affects our drainage system needs attention. We've been affected by hurricanes almost on a yearly basis. God bless us, we haven't been affected this year, but we just can't keep up the drainage system because of the lack of funding that we're facing here. And with that issue, those issues, we increase our flooding to residents if we don't take care of our drainage system, which increases our claims, which increases our policies. So we really do need to address our drainage system, as y'all can hear. It's a major problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry. Next, Ms. Stacy Madison, same question for you.
Yes, sir. In District 6, especially those of us south of the wall, we need the parish to focus on flood prevention if we stand a chance of getting FEMA maps altered to keep flood insurance affordable and allowing people to rebuild after storms. We need to complete levee projects, keep pumps operational and manned. Canals and ditches need to be maintained, keeping them free from vegetation and trash. As a parish, we need to ensure infrastructure always stays ahead of development, especially when it comes to providing potable water and safe water pressure levels. Proper planning for the future is needed to ensure the companies we're trying to woo can actually safely build their projects without our parish cutting back on services to residents or relying on other parishes to bail us out. We also need alternative routes to safely leave and enter our parish. The plenary contract causes huge issues with alternative routes across the canal, while manpower shortages interfere with our ability to cross the river via the ferries.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. We'll move on to the next question. We'll go back to District 8. Mr. Avery Riley, you will go first. And the question is, do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? You have 1 minute.
Well, first, I would say that I do agree with the current structure of the port. I do believe that the parish government is the right governing body for the port. I believe that, well, first of all, it's in the charter, so it's mandated by the Plaquemines Parish Charter, and also I believe that the people of the parish deserve to have people who, with a vested interest in their well-being, as well as a vested interest in the well-being of the parish as a whole, as the governing body of the port.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. We'll go next to Mr. John Talianicich. Same question.
I believe that the port needs to be managed by a professional that know what they're doing. Also, be responsive with the parish and coming together as one to make the right decisions. Nobody in a parish knows how to run a port. So I think that's the best solution to the problem.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Talianicich. Next, we have Mr. Mitch Jurasich, final candidate, District 8, for this question about, do you favor the council being the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Parish Port, Harbor, and Terminal District, or would you favor the port having an independent professional authority as other ports have around the country? 1 minute.
I believe in our local business people should govern our port. It's time to take the politics out of governing our port. I'm going to do what's best for the parish and not just a select few. If elected, I plan to stop the political bickering, because that's all that's been happening is bickering. When a person is hired to do a job, but yet he's got to defend himself the whole while he's trying to do that job, he's not capable of doing so. And that's what's been happening for the past 4 years. So what we have to do is we have to restructure. I believe that we do need different people on that committee. And let us, as council members, do our job as council members, and let someone else do their job with the port. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurasich. Coming back to District 6, Ms. Trudy Newberry, you will start off with this question.
Thank you. When I was elected 4 years ago, I thought it was a great asset to be on the Board of Commissioners for the port. I'm pro-port. I supported it. I really wanted to learn what the port was about, its mission, because I knew that the port is our economic development. So I was really excited. I'd attended conventions and really, I was vice chair for 2 years and really dove into the whole process of the port. What can it do? What kind of revenues it can bring businesses? And was very involved with stakeholders meetings and so forth. But just being experienced on the board and watching things, how they unfold and how we sometimes become a split board. I think we all believe in the same idea of our port being successful, but we all have different ideas. I think if we do separate from the government, it will bring us skilled, knowledgeable people to the board, and that way, as elected officials, we can govern our parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry. We'll let Ms. Stacy Madison next response.
The council should remain the sole governing authority of the port. I fear an independent board, if it was appointed, would be wrought with cronyism. Unfortunately, too often in our parish, it is who you know and not what you know that gets people appointed or hired. The port is the key to our future, and we need to ensure it will provide prosperity to all of our parish, not just a select few.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. So, Mr. Ronnie Newsom, final candidate, District 6, response to this question.
The port, we have to get it right. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. We got to get it right. Through my research, through other ports through the Gulf Coast region, they run in a combination. Business leaders, community leaders, and some elected officials. For the most part, these ports seem to do very well. I'm in favor of any change that mirrors what these other successful ports are doing. What we are currently doing is not working. It's creating a lot of conflict and confusion. We deserve better. The residents deserve better than what's going on now. So I would be in favor of something different than what's going on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Keep the mic. We'll let you start with the next question. Again, we'll, with District 6 going first for this question. It has been discussed in the past of Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5 and 2 council structure? Why or why not? 1 minute.
Yes, I am in favor. We can look at surrounding communities and parishes that live right here and that we live close to. It works well for them. 9 council members in a parish that has 20,000 registered voters, that's not good. Look, I'm not running for a job up here. I'm running to make this parish better. So whatever that means, take it how it goes. But it does require a change of the charter. But I'm in favor of anything that reducing government and streamlining the legislative process. Like I spoke, bigger parishes are doing it. We can do it. We have smart people live here. We have intelligent people live here. We can do this. It's also, I'm in favor of letting the voters, you guys decide. Let you guys decide how you'd like to be governed. It's not up to us. It's up to the people. So let's get this idea on the ballot, let the people decide, and let's move forward from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. We'll come to Ms. Stacy Madison next to respond. You have 1 minute.
Yes, sir. I believe the council and government could be streamlined. However, the options presented were the only two options. I would have to stay with 9 districts. I oppose at-large council seats for many reasons. First is a lack of accountability for the at-large seats. Second, the population distribution would favor candidates from certain sections of Belle Chasse and possibly lead to decisions that don't include the best interests of the whole parish. Third, we need to honor the decisions made by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in 1982 in the case of Broussard's versus Perez, which followed settled law by the Supreme Court in Rogers versus Lodge, stating at-large elections in rural counties or parishes with large minority populations violates the 14th Amendment to our Constitution for equal protection.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. Ms. Trudy Newberry, you have 1 minute for your response.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this pretty simple. Let's put it to the vote of the people and let the people decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry. Okay, moving back to District 8, and we'll start with Mr. John Talianicich on this question. That has been discussed in the past, the Plaquemines Parish changing to 5 districts with 2 at-large seats versus the current 9-district format. Would you be in favor of a 5-2 council structure? 1 minute.
No, not really, because I think each district needs to be represented by one person, and it's just going to cause a conflict. And that's about it. And let the voters, like Ms. Newberry said, let the voters decide. That's how we're going to get elected. The voters are going to decide it. We can say all we want, but the voters are going to decide who's the future of this parish. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Talianicich. Next, Mr. Mitch Jurasich, you have 1 minute for your response.
Well, for one thing, if we go to 5-2, how are we going to redistrict this parish? Because right now, the districting that just happened is totally, unreal, and especially District 8, right, guys? I mean, we got to get P-rogues, come back in the land, jump in a car, then go back in a P-rogue, jump back in a car. I think the biggest issue right now is, people from the lower end would feel like they wouldn't have enough representation with 5-2. But I do think that if we structure it properly, it could be something we can work with. And I think it's something we need to look at throughout, if whoever's elected, to look at this and try to see what's the best possible thing. I think maybe it can work if we can convince people that it would be fair and it would cover all aspects of what it needs to cover. So I'm not saying I'm for it, but I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm saying I would be willing to be open to it. And if it became to go to the people for vote, I would be fine with that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurasich. So, Mr. Avery Riley, your response. 1 minute.
I guess the first thing I would say is that I wouldn't be innately against it. However, I would feel that my biggest question is, how would the pie be divided and who would be in charge of doing the dividing? And my biggest concern would be whether or not the entire parish will be fairly and adequately represented. So we can ensure that it's done in a way where we can guarantee that the entire parish, regardless of Belle Chasse, down the road, East Bank, if everybody can be fairly and adequately represented, then I think there are some benefits that can be had from it. I think it'll make things a lot easier to get certain things done. Oftentimes when you have too many people going back and forth over an issue, it's hard to come to a common resolution. Obviously, it would save money in terms of salaries and benefits, health care, and things of that nature. So I would say my biggest issue or my biggest concern would be how would it be divided and who would be in charge of doing the dividing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Riley. And go ahead and keep the mic because we'll let you start off with the next question. And again, this will be starting off with District 8. So the next question is about the parish budget being in dire straits. And as you all know from me saying this several times tonight, that royalties are down from about $40 million to about $8 million over the last 10 years. How do you plan to fix the revenue problem our parish faces going forward? You have 1 minute.
First, I would say the obvious. We need to bring in more business. I think we're on the right track now with the Venture Global project. As someone mentioned earlier, it's the biggest under construction project in the world currently. And I think we need to keep that momentum. But I think at the same time, we need to ensure that when these businesses come in, that we also make it clear to them and bring them to the table and let them know that they are responsible for giving back their fair share to the community. I'm for big business. Big businesses were built this parish, but they also had an understanding of their responsibility and their role in bettering the community. Also, I think we do need to get more creative ways of bringing in business. For instance, just something I noticed in Plaquemines Parish, we're one of the biggest seafood producers in the world, but you can't find a seafood market anywhere in Plaquemines Parish. That's one thing that I noticed. Also, we need to encourage small businesses to be able to come up and provide incentives for them as well. It does us no good if we can make money, earn a paycheck in Plaquemines Parish, but as soon as you get paid, you got to go over to Gretna, Harvey, New Orleans, or wherever to spend it. We need to do a better job of maintaining small businesses, provide better incentives so we can keep our money here in Plaquemines. We need to start recirculating our dollars within the community. Also, we need to start looking into other alternative methods such as public funds, federal level, state level. We're in no position to leave any crumbs on the table. So I just think that we need to explore all options and pursue them vigorously.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Next, we'll go to Mr. Mitch Jurasich to answer this. Mr. Jurasich, your response. 1 minute.
Well, you know, we can all look at it. We got the river, Mississippi River runs through Plaquemines Parish. We have the most riverfront property of any other parish in the state on both the east and west banks. We need to develop that. We need to move forward with this port. It's very vital. This is our lifeline. This is what we have left. The oil and gas may come back to at a minimum, but we have a great avenue to build a port. All this land and everything that we're sitting on, I mean, we need to move forward. That's what's going to bring jobs. That's what's going to bring money. That's what's going to bring the small businesses. Because small businesses without big business is not going to work. Big business is our river. It's our port, and we need to stop the bickering, hopefully get some new blood to make this thing move forward, because every day we lose, we're losing years. And we got to stop that now. We have to move forward with developing our riverfront. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurasich. Mr. John Talianisich, for the final candidate in District 8, your response.
Well, first of all, to bring businesses in, you need to stop the bickering and everything and look at the safety reasons of, you know, giving permits and everything. It comes back to that. If you know, so strict on certain things, they're going to go somewhere else. It's just plain as that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Talianisich. We'll come back to District 6, and Mr. Ronnie Newsom, you'll be the first to respond. Your response to the same question.
Yes, simple. Some simple things. We all have a household budget. I know I do. You got to look at you got money coming in, and look where you're spending your money. If you got more money that's going out than coming in, you got a problem, and that's what we have. How do you fix the problem? You either make more or spend less. If we in Plaquemines Parish want to make more, we've got to attract new businesses and create a tax revenue. Just like other folks have spoken about with the Mississippi River, the port, the containers, those are revenue streams that we need to follow. Also, I don't want us taxing our people. No taxes. You know, previous attempts to balance the budget was fostered by putting millages on the ballot. That's not the way to do it. That's unfair. That affects residents, homeowners, and businesses. Those are the people we're trying to keep here. We do not want to run any business. We want to create new business. Bring them in. No millages. Also, if you know, I'm all in favor of streamlining our government. Just streamlining our government is a thing we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. We'll go to Ms. Trudy Newberry. Your response.
Yes, thank you. Parish revenues is our port. Port's our biggest revenue here. We rely on our port. Businesses, industry we need to get these business industries back here in Plaquemines Parish. Of course, we lost Phillips 66. We need to find ways to regenerate that plant, and how do we bring that back? But I feel like the most important thing we need to do is get an economic development board. I'm looking at people right here who would be great on a board like that. So bringing back some boards to help really utilize our government Economic Board, working together with other civic boards as the Tourist Board and PABI. So bringing those groups and collaborating with our council and our administration and these boards to bring these businesses here to Plaquemines Parish. So our river is our economic engine, and that's what we need to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry. Final for this response to this question, Ms. Stacy Madison.
Possible solutions to inadequate parish revenues include creating a realistic budget free from unnecessary items, the reallocation of manpower and resources, and small, simple changes like restructuring of services. One example would be to schedule bulk trash pickup by neighborhood or area. We need to speak with current businesses and industries to find out what they need to preserve and grow their current ventures. We need to entice the budding green energy initiatives, bridge the gap in understanding the potential our coast has in ambient energy production while marrying it to the oil and gas industry. We still need petroleum products to fuel growth. As a parish, we need to seek out various types of grants, from large coastal restoration funds to public safety and health and wellness grants that would bolster our community and improve our quality of life. We also should not allow upwards of $1 billion to leave our parish over the next 30 years as tolls.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. Keep the mic. We'll let you go ahead and close. So each candidate will just go down the line. 30 seconds for your closing comments. Ms. Madison.
I think we need to vote in a council member who show up, vote, pay attention, not just to the district, but the parish as a whole. My goal is to make this community a place my children and yours want to stay after graduation. I have served this community for 18 years on volunteer basis, and I am ready to bring my experience and passion to serve this council. We need to correct the mistakes of the past before we can only focus on the future. Elections have consequences.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. Ms. Newberry.
Yes, thank you. As your present council member, and I have brought, like I said, over $18 million to Jesuit Bend in District 6. I will continue to work hard to improve our infrastructure, our protection, and our drainage to our district and to our parish. I am committed. I'm a lifelong resident. I've been here for 34 years in Jesuit Bend. I understand the needs and the priorities that we have in this district, so I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry. Mr. Newsom, 30 seconds.
Yes, why am I running? Well, because I care about Plaquemines Parish. I spoke about it earlier. I believe in Plaquemines Parish. I believe we can do better. We deserve better than what we have. I am running as a candidate for the people, for the listening to you folks, knocking on doors. That's what's been going on. I've been listening to folks out there and talking, and we need some changes. And I'm here to make sure that happens. Again, Plaquemines Parish is a great place. We should all be proud of it. I am. And that's why I hope for your support on Election Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newsom. Mr. Mitch Jurasich, District 8. We'll start there. 30 seconds, sir.
Well, as I spoke before, I've been very active in my community throughout, both business and civic-wise. I've been out and about. I do a lot of things for our parish already, and I really would be honored to have the vote on November 8th, so I can continue that, and I can do it at a better fashion and at a, with more, whatever I have to offer. Those of you who know me know I'm a fighter. I don't give up, but I try to do what's best for each and everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jurasich. Mr. Avery Riley, 30 seconds.
Not only do I intend to be a voice for this parish, a voice for District 8, but I also intend to be a voice for the future. I truly believe that there's no one that has a greater love and passion for Plaquemines Parish, and I feel that I'm the right person to move Plaquemines Parish forward in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. John Telianisich, 30 seconds.
Like I said before, I've been a public servant for the last 28 years with the fire department, and I was blessed to serve as a professional firefighter and learn a lot more. Trust and unity, that's what we need, and I'm your guy for that. So please, I appreciate your support on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give these candidates a round of applause. All right, y'all may be excused. Thank you so much. Will the candidates for parish president please come on up, and we're going to get started immediately. We are a little behind on time. Started. All right, so now we are going to have our debate for the Plaquemines Parish President's position. We have 4 candidates sitting up on the stage. All 4 candidates that are running are here tonight. I want to thank each one of you for your commitment to public service. And we'll go ahead and get started here. So we're going to start with Mr. Keith Hinckley. Mr. Hinckley, you have 1 minute for your introduction.
Very good. Thank you, Reed. Thank you, PABI. Thank all of you here tonight, and also the ones in YouTube world there. I am Keith Hinckley. I'm a husband of 42 years of Sharon Hinckley. I have 2 sons, Whit, Jody, a great daughter-in-law, Melissa, 2 wonderful grandchildren, Jody and Kate Marie. I am a business owner. My family has West Bank Roofing, Louisiana Roofing. We also own a supply company. We also have a company called Hinckley Metals. And after Katrina, I also invested in a beer company here in New Orleans called NOLA Brewing. Also sat on a couple of boards. One's the Belle South Advertising and Publishing Board. Created some nonprofits, the Plaquemines Parish Seafood Festival. I'm a former Grand Knight. I'm a 3rd-degree Mason, and I'm also a Rotarian of the Belle Chasse Rotary Club here. I'm a former 2-time council member here in Plaquemines Parish. We need to get Plaquemines Parish out of the idle and get it moving forward, and I'm the one that's got the plan for that. Thank you.
All right, next we have Mr. Kirk Lapine. You have 1 minute for your introduction.
Thank you, Reed, and thank you, PABI, for hosting this forum. In 2018, when we ran for the first time as parish president, we had 3 objectives, and that was to streamline our legal department, to make sure Plaquemines is open for business again, and also to streamline our government. And we've done just that. We assembled a legal team which settled 36 lawsuits, also brought back 8 lawsuits that were outstanding with outside counsel and saved the parish $3 million. And we did that with 1 less legal attorney on staff. So we've done that job. We've also said we were open for business, and we meant it. We have signed 471 occupational licenses, bringing more tax dollars to Plaquemines Parish. We also put directors in place that allowed us to streamline our government, streamline our workforce, our depleted workforce, who are outstanding, doing a great job every day.
Thank you, Mr. Lapine. Mr. Benny Roussel, you have 1 minute for your introduction.
Thank you, and thank you all for participating tonight. I am Benny Roussel. I graduated right here off of this stage in Belle Chasse High School, From there, I went into the U.S. Merchant Marines. Upon returning from the U.S. Merchant Marines, I went to the University of New Orleans. I graduated from the University of New Orleans with a degree in political science. From there, I went into the private sector and worked at some of the refineries, and then decided to get involved into the politics of the parish. Having done that, I got elected to the parish council, and then I got reelected, and then from there I went to the House of Representatives and was elected to the House of Representatives from different parishes of Jefferson, Lafourche, and Plaquemines. I served there for one term, and then I was recruited by the present council at the time to run for parish president. I decided to do that after consultation with many people, got elected to the parish president seat, and then got reelected to that parish president seat for the second time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel. Final for this introduction, Mr. Burghardt Turner. 1 minute for your introduction.
Burghardt Turner from Port Sulphur. When I graduated from high school, right after graduation, I went into the Marine Corps. Went to the Marine Corps at 17. Got out, got hired on by Chevron, retired from Chevron after 31 years. I served on the council from 2007 to 2014. And during that time, I felt that far more could have been done and still can be done. But it's going to take somebody who's willing to fight, stand up, have courage. And I'm trusting that the Lord is going to bless, that he's going to open up doors for us. Some of the things I plan to address is the tolls. We need mitigation banks, recreation, drainage, our seafood industry. We need help. We need change. And it's time for change. It's time we bring in new leadership. It's time we vote for Turner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. For the next round, for the first question, we'll start with Mr. Kirk Lepine. And the first question being, how do you plan to address the current financial crisis the parish faces today? You actually have 2 minutes.
How do we address it? Well, we've been addressing it every day. We've been here the last 4 years. We balanced the budget for the last 3 years, and we have lived within our means. And what we've done is to make sure that we will not spend one dime that we don't have. And we've done that on extreme circumstances. When we talk about shortcomings, how did we address some of the shortcomings in our budget? Well, we got $11.5 million of grant money for infrastructure projects. We increased the mosquito control. We recovered more revenue in the mosquito control that was outdated. I say mosquito, I apologize. The EMS, okay, in the EMS, I apologize. We have recovered more money in the EMS department in the last 3.5 years. That's been outstanding. We have signed 471 occupational licenses. So that's extra revenue. So we've done everything we can in this budget to make it feasible for our residents. We also have a balanced budget presented for next year, ready to go right now, waiting on the council to get budget hearings so we can adopt the Archer plan to give our employees the raise that they need. So we've done our job balancing the budget on what we've had, and we've done a great job with our finance department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lepine. Next, Mr. Benny Roussel. You have 2 minutes.
Yes, we will hold budget hearings, and you hear a lot about balanced budget. Well, that's the law. We can't adopt a budget unless it's balanced. We can't do deficit spending, and we should not use reoccurring funding without using it in the operational budget. The way we're going to balance it, I guess, is that we're going to use the revenue that we are collecting from Venture Global, who is currently paying approximately $8 million extra right now above the estimated revenues. And so when you hear about all of this turnaround, it's because of the industry that we have brought in here on the port side. And you're going to hear a lot about the port discussion, which I look forward to, but we will balance the budget with that extra revenue. Just like the school board balanced their budget and gave pay raises, this government will balance its budget based on that extra sales tax revenue, as Mr. Lepine just stated, and we will work together and get a budget that will give raises, because we know we need those. The other thing is we have to bring in retail operations. I believe that we ought to have a Walgreens or a CVS on the corner over there. I believe that we ought to have more retail, a Home Depot or somebody down the street. And we've blocked that. There are ordinances on the tables right now that block big box stores. Now, if we're talking about seriously developing business, we can't protect certain interests like we've done. And we really need to move forward with that because sales tax is a generator that will provide revenue to the school board and to the parish. As far as ad valorem taxes, the ad valorem taxes at the refinery will not come on the tax rolls for at least 10 years. So we have to have a plan to be able to do that by using that revenue, and we have to make a rainy day fund to take some of that windfall and put that in the rainy day fund for when that sales tax starts to drop, because the construction only lasts so long. And my plan would be that when we go through the first 4 to 5 years of having that sales tax, and I'll complete this comment when I get more time.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel. Next, Mr. Burkhart Turner, 2 minutes to address the current financial crisis the parish faces today.
I believe we can immediately increase the revenues to the parish by recapturing tax dollars that are being given away. This parish gives away $95 million a year in industrial tax exemptions. And at the same time, the parish wants to tax us, the residents, for $9.1 million. That was on the last ballot. If you're giving away $95 million, why do you want to tax the people? Give away $85. That's an immediate funding source that we can capture right now. It's just a matter of having the will to do it. And so if we're looking to raise 10 million, 20, 40, 50 million, we can do it in the first 3 months. In addition to that, I believe that part is easy. In addition to that, we need to attract new businesses. The businesses that we have, we also need to create an environment where they would want to stay and where they can benefit by making the place look nice, by making the place look more attractive. But there are other industries that we can bring in, other businesses. We have to develop a marketing strategy in order to attract these new businesses. We have to go after them. We can't assume that they will just automatically find us. And so we need a plan to pursue them. I believe we have a lot of opportunities, and I believe this is a golden time. We just need to take advantage of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Keith Hinckley, your response, 2 minutes.
We do have to live within the budget inside the administration. That's a given right there, and that's the law. But here's what we need to do. We need to create wealth building jobs in the parish. We have one right now with the LNG plant, but we don't need to stop there. We need to move down and create the port, the container port. There's a facility on the East Bank, the nickel facility. We need to create some type of facility there. The Port of Plaquemines is just not at each one of these individual sites. The Port of Plaquemines goes from the head of passes from mile 0 up to about mile 81 up at the north at our parish lines, and it goes down about 22 miles from the head of passes. So if we want to create retail stores in our parish, we need to create the wealth building jobs first, because it's the cycle of life. You create the jobs that allow you to build a home, to raise a family. Then you have the second tier. It's the service companies that work for those companies, the service companies that work for the service companies. Then you have the wealth in your families. Then you can have your retail stores, and then you can have your clothing stores, your drug stores. But we need to open the doors for the wealth building facilities in our parish.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. Mr. Benny Roussel will start off the next question. And the question is, the business community has recognized that over the years, the council and the administration frequently disagree on many topics. This dysfunctional relationship has impeded progress within our parish and made it difficult to have a unified message of the parish's priorities and needs, both in Baton Rouge and in Washington, D.C. Do you agree with this assessment? And if so, how do you plan to fix this problem? You have 2 minutes.
Well, I won't agree with it when I was the president, because we did have a unified message, and I worked with the council. And if you look at the history of that when I was the president, we worked very well together. Now, how do we do that again? I plan on meeting with the new council members, having a line of communication open with them in between meetings, not just at the council meetings. Because I believe if we sit there with the new council members and come to a consensus about what we can do and what we cannot do, and then we don't have to put all of these items on the agenda that eat up all of the time on these extensive agenda items for discussion. We should have that discussion in a professional manner in a conference room before we go to the public to make our decisions. And I believe that will eliminate a lot of that, and it'll take the argument away about the bickering. Because if you understand the democratic process, debate sometimes can be confused as bickering. Now, in a democratic society, healthy debate makes it better for you who we represent. Because if you want to have the best form of government in the world, the most efficient without any debate, then get a dictator like Putin, and then you don't have any input. But you got to have debate. The bickering, I agree, can be put aside, and we can go ahead into the conference room and solve a lot of problems before we ever get to the public arena. Now, the message. I believe that we ought to have a consistent message, just as I talked to shrimpers today. They have a problem, they can't sell their shrimp. I asked them to give me a consistent 10-point white paper that we can develop a message for the shrimp industry, and we all get on the same page and create that message to be able to get our congressional delegation to understand the problem. And the problem, for what I understand, is we need to put a cap on imports. So what we do is, and I'm using this just as an example of how we go create messaging. This can be applied to any part of the government that we want to sell. And that's what we really have to do. We have to sell this government, and I'll stop.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel. Next, Mr. Burghardt Turner, same question.
As far as having a unified message, I just want to be clear. I'm going to be the one carrying the message. Part of the problem we have is you have people, groups undermining the government. It's important that the government is able to interact positively and in a beneficial way with businesses, that we have a good working relationship. But we have to be clear. We need a leader who can carry the message. If you can't carry the message, you need to resign. I will be the one carrying the message. Part of the problem we have is we hire lobbyists, and we let other people, we let different business groups carry the message for us, and sometimes it gets twisted. But if you have one person carrying the message, based on his interactions with the body, it's not a dictatorship, it's working in partnership with the people. But the message has to be clear. And so I'll be bringing the message to Baton Rouge, I'll be bringing the message to Washington, D.C. Not going to rely solely on lobbyists and other groups. I will work with those groups, but as far as carrying the message is going to be unified because I'll be carrying it. It takes leadership. This isn't where you just need a manager, you need someone to lead. And I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Next, Mr. Keith Hinckley, you have 2 minutes.
The message will be unified. My plan is this. I plan to meet with every one of the communities, all of the council members in these communities. We will create a committee. I will sit with that council members and leaders of that community, the East Bank, Port Sulphur, Buras, Venice, Empire, Boothville, Belle Chasse. It won't be a message totally carried out by Keith Hinckley. It'll be a message carried out by Keith Hinckley with the local council member and some of the business leaders and the leaders of that community right there. It's not a message of just one person. It's a message of the people of Plaquemines Parish.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. Mr. Kirk Lepine, you have 2 minutes.
You know, that's an interesting question, I guess, for me and Mr. Roussel, because we both sat on both sides of the body of the legislature. So we both sat on councilmen, we both sat as president. When we talk about working relationships and working together, it does come sometimes with an adversarial point, and that's just the nature of the beast. But we try to work every day with our councilmen. What we did in our administration and implemented was a director's report every Wednesday before a council meeting, updating our councilmen from our directors, giving them the objectives of what we accomplished in that week. So that was the message that we sent, and we started that. That never happened in the 8 years when I was on the council, but we did. We implemented it. We wanted to have a unified voice with the council. Now, working with our legislators, senators, and congressional leaders, unfortunately, we have been doing that a lot in the last 3 years with hurricanes and issues that we've had and pandemics. So we've had a unified voice. I can pick up the phone and call my legislators, my delegation, and they answer the phone. I also flew up in June to Washington, D.C. with 10 other parish presidents to go and try to secure more Go Mesa money for the surrounding area. We flew in that night. We had a meeting with Senator Kennedy. We've asked him to sign on to a co-sponsor of the RISE Act, very important legislation. The next day he did that. So that's what we can do. We can work with not only our council members, our local delegation, our federal delegations, but also the parish presidents. So we've done that over the last 4 years, and we want to continue that in the next 4 years.
Thank you, Mr. Lapine. Next, we'll start with Mr. Burghardt Turner for this question. The question is, what changes to the structure of our government, if any, would you support as parish president? Examples of such changes would be for a 5-2 council structure, an independent professional board for the port, or even a parish manager versus having a parish president. You have 2 minutes.
I would not support changing the form of government. I think the form of government we have is adequate. The problem is the leadership and the lack thereof. When you talk about the representation between 9 council districts versus a 5-2, you run into a representation problem. It's not based on population, but geographically. You and I both know that there are areas that are neglected. Drive to the southern end today and you can't deny it, it'll slap you in the face. We know that not everything is fair across the board. If everything was fair across the board, we could go with 3 council members with the population that we have. But the problem is people are only concerned about their little areas. We have to make sure that each area is represented. We have to make sure that we treat it as one in the parish. We talk about being one, but we don't act as one. That we have to change. And I think a big part of that, and a big reason for that, is because of the leadership. Your leaders create the culture in which certain behaviors and attitude flourishes. The fact that we are a divided parish is an indictment on the leadership of this parish. I don't think it's so much an indictment on the people, or of the people, but it's the system they're working within. They don't control the workforce. The administration does. And the way the administration administers the service and dispenses the work throughout the parish is a reflection of one of division. We can see the division. So I don't think reducing the number of representatives will improve the way we look and the service that we get. And when it comes to the port, if anybody is looking to give the port away, if they don't feel competent and adequate enough to represent the port, you shouldn't vote for them, because that's their duty. When you run for parish president, when you run for the council
Time
seat,
is up, Mr. Turner.
you have to be willing to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Next, Mr. Keith Hinckley, your response.
The concept of creating a port commission is not giving the port away. What it is doing, it's creating solid leadership for the port, not politicians. Industry does not want to deal with politicians. They want to deal with business people. Now, if one of the elected officials, as it turns out, that may be one of the appointees on that board, well then obviously they must have some experience and some maritime industry experience behind them. So when we talk about creating a port commission, it's not giving the port away. it's still the Port of Plaquemines. As far as the government side of things, a 5 and 2, as we've heard many times this afternoon and this evening, every parish around us, from 500,000 to 60,000 to 700,000, they're managing pretty good with a 5 and 2. Now, I agree that geography, Plaquemines Parish is very diverse, but I truly think we can make that work with a 5 and 2. You get your district councilman, you do have your 2 at large. And myself right now, I'm looking at my attitude as this right here. We're basically going to have a 9 and 2 because I'm going to work with each of these council members to be a solid representative for each district of this parish. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. Mr. Kirk Lapine, 2 minutes.
Could you read the question again?
Absolutely. What changes to the structure of our government, if any, would you support as parish president? Examples of such changes could be for a 5 and 2 council structure. Another is an independent professional board for the port, or even consider a parish manager versus a parish president.
Well, again, I sat on both sides of the fence. In 2013, we hired a port director, Mr. Sandy Sanders, and I think we did a good job. And also what we did was separate the port from the administration and put it under the council. And then the council was in charge of the port. Now, was that the correct way to do it? Was that the honest way? You know, I have mixed feelings about that. But what I've seen over the last couple of years, I definitely would like to see a port board come available. People with maritime industry, business industry, come and take the politics out of the port, out of the council that directs the port. We had a good director. Unfortunately, he won't be here anymore. So now we're looking for a new director. So a new division, a new direction. So we are constantly trying to battle 5 people on the council who vote and dictate how it happens. Now, a 5 and 2, I guess all you heard tonight, every one of the candidates got up in here and said, let the people decide. Let the people decide. Well, just a couple of years ago, a couple of council members brought an ordinance to the table to put on the ballot to let the people decide. It didn't even get a second. So we didn't even give a chance for the people to decide. And if you hear from every candidate who was up here and talked about letting the people decide, well, let them decide and let them decide their wishes. And it has to go 2/3 vote because it's a majority. So let the people decide and figure it out. Now, president versus manager, I really have no thoughts on that. I don't really know if it's a big misstep or it's an advantage. So that's my thoughts on that, and I don't really think that it's bad either way.
Thank you, Mr. Lapine. Mr. Benny Roussel, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Let's talk about the port. The port was created with the intention of the Plaquemines Parish Commission Council being the sole governing authority of that body. Now, you hear all of these candidates running as, I'm the businessman, and I can do this as a businessman. Well, if you can't run as the sole governing authority of the port as a businessman, then you shouldn't be running, and you shouldn't be claiming you're a businessman, because we don't run the day-to-day operations of the port. We are the governing authority. We set policy. We hire professionals to run the day-to-day operation of the port that have port experience. So when you get into the argument about we need another body, what they're doing is they're advocating their duties that they're elected to try to give it to another political body, because who's going to appoint the next body to take over the port? If it's not going to be a political decision, show me how it's done. Believe me, the Port of New Orleans is as political as you can get. The governor makes the appointments. If you give up the authority of the port, you give up the authority that goes with it, which means that a body that you put over here can tax you without a vote of you, because that's the authority that this port authority has. Why would you want to give up that authority to a body that has the authority to tax you because you have no recourse. If you don't like the body as the council governing that authority as the port, and they put taxes on you, you can vote them out. Now let's move on to the council and the way it's structured. From what I heard tonight, obviously as the next president, which I hope to be, I'm going to have to deal with that. And if they decide to go in that direction and put it on the ballot, then the people will speak. But I can tell you, you heard one of the candidates say that the Supreme Court has already ruled on this form of government. And I would not like to have to spend a lot of money defending this parish to overcome that, to save $70,000 a year in salary. If you want to save money on the council operations, I know y'all see that stop, but
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Mr. Burkhart Turner. I'm sorry, we'll go back and start with Mr. Hinckley on the next question. Okay, so the following questions you have 1 minute to respond, okay? This next question, starting with Mr. Keith Hinckley. Are you in favor of the Mid-Barataria Bay Diversion Project? Why or why not?
No, I'm not. Personal experience, I've spent the last 30, 35 years my weekend times in recreational fishing on the East Bank side of Plaquemines Parish. Mardi Gras Pass has destroyed the East Bank side of our river. The oyster industry is no longer there. When I first started going there, they had 18-wheelers lined up. Oysters were going out on a daily basis. Shrimp boats were going out on a daily basis. We didn't go fishing on the East Bank. We went and we caught fish. We don't do that as well as we used to. They want to say it creates land over there. It's not creating land. It's displacing land. It's killing our marsh. There's 200- and 300-year-old oak trees that are dying. And just last week or sometime in the last week or two on the Newell Norman show, they had the science is not supporting what they're saying it's going to happen, what it's going to create in 50 years. So emphatically, I'm not in favor of it. I'm against it.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. Next, Mr. Kirk Lapine.
I'm against it, and I got to thank one of the candidates out there, Mr. Mitch Jersich, because his compassion and his leadership through all this and educating us about how it works and what won't work. We have seen land developed down in Venice at the Spanish Pass Ridge by dredging. We dredge and put land right where we want it. We have developed almost 350 acres of ridge and almost 1,500 acres of marsh just by dredging it and putting exactly where we want it to be. The EIS study has come back, and some of those numbers of water is going to push in our communities is unbelievable. The mitigation plan that they have is unacceptable. So no on the diversion, and we want to see them dredge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lapine. Next, Mr. Benny Rousseau. 1 minute.
Yes, I also am not in favor of the Mid-Barataria diversion because I read the environmental impact statement and based my decisions on that. And what you have in there is an example. Negative impacts on the bed of the Mississippi River, minor impacts on storm protection, minor impact on land restoration, negative impacts on socioeconomic, environmental justice, commercial fisheries, recreational use of the area, bottlenose dolphins, threatened and endangered species, impact on speckled trout, total trout population, and associated recreational commercial sport fishers. So why would anybody in this parish, knowing that those are negative impacts on the project, support the project? Now, what I do support is what Mr. Lapine just talked about, the Spanish Pass project, which you can pump and dredge, which is a project that I started when I was in DNR and before that with the parish president's office, where you can pump and you can put a bulldozer on it and walk on it the next day. The Barrier Islands, I support those type of coastal protection projects again.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Mr. Burkhart Turner.
I'm against the proposed diversion because it won't work in a timely manner. We don't have 50 years to wait or to waste. We need to be pumping now. 2 weeks ago on C-SPAN, one of the senators talked about this doomsday glacier in the Antarctica that's expected to break away in the next 5 to 10 years. It's 80 miles wide, and they anticipate that it would create a 10-foot sea level rise. We don't have time for a diversion to work. We're behind the 8 ball. We need to be pumping now. We need to be creating mitigation banks up close to give us levee protection, knock down the storm surge. Even if we were to go with a diversion, with all of the negatives, we would be crazy to do so. The bottom line, the timing just wouldn't work. It's not fast enough. It's too late. It'll be too late for us. We have to act now. And so we need to be pumping now. Let's not wait.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Kirk Lapine. And the question is, and you will each have 1 minute to respond, what sets you apart from your opponents?
Well, we're battle tested. We've been here the last 3.5 years, and we've been through reduced workforce, reduced revenue, pandemic, 11 hurricanes, a shortage of not only funds, but people to find to work. We've also had, we had to keep our people safe, and we had to keep them working. So we've been the person who's been here. We've been through every storm that has come our way. We've also had, just this year, a hack on our system that shut down the government for 2 weeks, and now we're fighting a saltwater intrusion. So each day is a battle. We stand strong. We fight, because what we have is not much. But we continue to move forward, and I can't say enough about our workforce. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lapine. Mr. Benny Rousseau, 1 minute. What sets you apart from your opponents?
What sets me apart from my opponents are my experience, my education, my knowledge, and my ability to get things done. You talk about experience. I was the parish president for Katrina. I have had more people come up to me since I got in this race and recounted stories about how we handled the event than I ever thought existed. And there are some negatives out there, but I can tell you overall, we did an excellent job of protecting your property and bringing people back as soon as we had the streets safe to get in and out of the parish. My experience in the legislature, I can go to Baton Rouge, and when I walk through the halls of the legislature, I know the staffers. As the members turn over, I know some of them, but the staffers are the institutional knowledge that I use when I go to Baton Rouge. If I go to Washington, I served in the House of Representatives with Steve Scalise and them, and I'm not advocating Steve because he's kind of gotten so far out of touch here that we need to pull him back down and do some more work for us.
Thank you, Mr. Rousseau. Mr. Burkhart Turner, you have 1 minute.
I think I can say a lot of the same things that Mr. Rousseau has stated. My experience, my intellect, my ability to negotiate. But the biggest difference is my relationship with Jesus Christ and the favor that he gives me. And I'm trusting that he's going to open up doors for us. I know where my strength comes from. And I believe that we can do so much better. We can do so much more. I can't be bought. I'm a man of convictions. I stand up for what I believe in, and you need somebody who's willing to fight for you. What sets me apart is, for me, this is a ministry. I heard someone earlier say it's not a job. Well, it's not a job. I've retired from Chevron after 31 years. It's not an adventure. I served in the Marine Corps. For me, this is a ministry. It's an opportunity to help a lot of people. For me, what sets me apart, I promise you, my focus is you. It's all about you. That's what sets me apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. And finally, for this question, Mr. Keith Hinckley, what sets you apart from your opponents? You have 1 minute.
I am the businessman. I've had to meet the demands of owning a business. I've had to recreate myself, just like this government and this parish needs to recreate itself here right now. We're at an all-time low. I spent 8 years on the council. I worked well with my counterparts. I worked well with the parish president at that time. We were in Baton Rouge. We were in D.C. I have that experience. As parish president, I will be able to knock on the governor's door. I'll be able to go walk into a senator's office. We're going to be well received. I'll be able to walk into the Corps engineer's office. We're going to be well received there. So I know what compromise is. To stay in business for 42 years, you have to compromise a lot. But you don't compromise your ethics. You be solid in what you stand for and you move forward. You power forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. This will be the last closing comments for 1 minute. We'll start with Mr. Benny Roussel. Mr. Benny Roussel, you have 1 minute for your closing comments.
Thank you, Reed, and thank you all for coming tonight. And I hope you people that are watching on YouTube remember to go out and vote. As your parish president, I will set priorities, balance the budget, run an efficient and stable government. We will invest in our employees, drainage, water, flood protection, sewage, roads, and recreation. I will also continue to fight against tolls on the new Belle Chasse Bridge. And I didn't touch on that tonight, but I want you to know that I have the guts to fight this battle, as well as the willpower. We need a parish president who understands how business and government work. I bring that to the table with years of experience, working with all levels of government, civic leaders, residents, and businesses. I look forward to your vote. I am number 61, and I would appreciate you looking at our records of public service and compare us, and then you will be able to make an easier decision. If you want to see what we've been up to for the last 8 years, just go on the parish's website and watch a couple of council meetings and make your own decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel. Next, Mr. Burkhart Turner. You have 1 minute, your closing comments.
PABI, I want to thank you for the opportunity. This is a blessing, so appreciate you all putting this on. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6 says, "Many a man proclaims his own loyalty, but who can find a trustworthy man?" And when you go to the polls on November 8th, or vote early, what you're really looking for is for someone whom you can trust, and someone who will give you a confidence level that they're concerned about you and going to be fighting for you. That's my goal. That's what I'm about. Again, for me, this is a ministry. It's an opportunity to be a blessing to a lot of people. I can't be bought. It's about serving you, all about you. If we want to make Plaquemines better, we have to change. And now is the time. We're losing. Therefore, it's time for Turner. I would appreciate your vote, number 62. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Next, Mr. Keith Hinckley, 1 minute closing comment.
Is Plaquemines Parish a great place to raise our children and our grandchildren? Emphatically, yes, it is. But every day, I come across people that are saying, "Keith, I can't take this anymore. I'm moving out." It breaks my heart. I chose Plaquemines Parish 42 years ago, and I'll be here hopefully another 42 years, but I don't think that's going to happen at my age right now. It's about jobs. We have to make a good impression. When you come through Plaquemines Parish right now, we're failing. If it's from St. Bernard, if it's from Plaquemines, from Jefferson Parish, we fail. We get one opportunity to make that first impression. And right now, we're not making a very good impression when you drive into our parish. I am the businessman. I spent 8 years on the council. I've been in business for 42 years. Look at my record of those 8 years on the council. I am the businessman. Vote Keith Hinckley, number 59. Let's power Plaquemines forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hinckley. Mr. Kirk Lepine, 1 minute closing comment.
First of all, Reed, thank you. Thank you, PABI, for hosting this forum. And I want to thank these three gentlemen up here. I've worked with each one of them on the council and as president. So thank you for being here, you guys. But let's talk about leadership. A real leader runs into the fire, not away from the fire. And that's what we did in 2019. Ran into the fire. We knew that there was lost revenue. We knew there was lost manpower. That never stopped us. We put our boots on and we got to work. And we do what a real leader does. It's not about him. It's about the people around him making him better. So every day we try to make a little bit better for Plaquemines Parish. And we've been successful. We've been successful the last 3.5 years, and we'll be successful the next 4 years. Why? Because we're the real leadership here. Now, if you want to move this parish forward, and you want things done, you want projects done, we're the people. We're the, not just about us, it's about everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lepine. Let's give all of our candidates a round of applause, please. All right, before we close, our chairman, Ms. Betsy Patlovich, has some closing comments.
Hello. I'd just like to thank all of the candidates for participating. Thank you for showing interest by attending. Thanks to, again, to Chad Arborough and Arlen Darter from Bayou Events for their production services. Thanks to our moderator, Reed McClellan, and y'all have a safe trip home, and don't forget to vote.